The glass shattered against the wall behind Ethan Brooks' head, and for one suspended moment, the entire marketing department held its breath. Vivian Hart, billionaire CEO, ice sculpture in human form, stood trembling with rage, her perfectly manicured hand still extended from the throw. "You don't get to—" Ethan started, but his words died as she crossed the space between them in 3 sharp clicks of designer heels and kissed him. Hard, desperate, furious. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. "I hate that I need you," she whispered. And Ethan's phone buzzed. "School nurse. Mia has 104-degree fever. Come now. If you want to know how a single kiss can destroy everything you've built and maybe save what truly matters, stay with me until the end. And if this story speaks to you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from." I love seeing how far these stories travel. The fluorescent lights of Apex Marketing's executive floor had a particular quality that Ethan Brooks had come to despise over the past 3 months. They were too bright, too clinical, designed to eliminate shadows and, apparently, any semblance of human warmth. It was 8:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, and Ethan was exactly where he'd been every night for the past 2 weeks. Hunched over his laptop in his corner office, eyes burning, coffee gone cold 3 hours ago, trying to salvage a campaign that should have been impossible from the start. His phone sat face up beside his keyboard, the screensaver a photo of Mia, his 7-year-old daughter, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a drawing she'd made of the two of them. Daddy and Mia's Adventure, the crayon letters proclaimed across the top. The picture had been taped to their refrigerator for 6 months now. A reminder of simpler times before Nora left, before the late nights became routine, before he'd made choices he wasn't sure were right anymore. The office door opened without a knock. Ethan didn't need to look up to know who it was. Only one person in the building moved with that particular precision, heels clicking against marble like a metronome of judgment. "The Morrison account," Vivian Hart said, her voice carrying the emotional temperature of a walk-in freezer. "Where are we?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He saved his document with deliberate slowness before turning to face her. Vivian stood in his doorway like she owned it, which, technically, she did. Everything in this building, from the imported Italian tiles to the custom ergonomic chairs to Ethan's rapidly deteriorating work-life balance, belonged to her. At 34, Vivian Hart had built Apex Marketing from a one-woman operation in a studio apartment to a powerhouse agency that Fortune 500 companies fought over. She had the kind of beauty that magazines called striking. All sharp angles and cool precision, dark hair pulled back so severely it could double as a weapon, gray eyes that saw through bullshit and broke down resistance with equal efficiency. She wore power suits like armor, and Ethan had never once seen her smile. Not really. Not the kind of smile that reached the eyes. "We're behind," Ethan said flatly, because there was no point in sugarcoating it. "The timeline you set was aggressive. The client changed their core message twice in 4 days. Half my team is running on fumes, and the other half already quit." Something flickered across Vivian's face, so quick Ethan almost missed it. "That's not what I asked." "No, you asked where we are. I'm telling you where we are. We're drowning, Vivian, and you keep piling on water." The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Vivian stepped fully into his office, closing the door behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded threatening. "Your predecessor managed twice this workload." "My predecessor had a nervous breakdown and checked into a treatment facility," Ethan shot back. "I did my research before I took this job. I talked to 5 people who used to work here. You know what they all said? That you're brilliant and impossible, and that working for you is like trying to hold fire in your bare hands." "Then why did you take the position?" The question hung in the air between them. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying this woman who'd become the central complication of his professional life. "Because I'm good at what I do. Because the pay was excellent. Because I needed to prove I could still compete at this level, even with a 7-year-old depending on me. And because I thought maybe, just maybe, the stories were exaggerated. And now? Now I think they undersold it." Vivian's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the tablet she carried everywhere. "The Morrison account launches in 10 days. If we don't deliver—" "I know the stakes," Ethan interrupted. I've lived and breathed nothing but those steaks for 3 months. But you need to understand something. I have a daughter who barely sees me anymore. I have a kid who used to run to the door when I came home and now just looks up from her homework like it's a surprise I showed up at all. So when you ask me where we are on Morrison, understand that what you're really asking is how much more I'm willing to sacrifice of the only thing that actually matters. The silence stretched. Outside Ethan's window, Manhattan glittered with the lights of 1,000 other offices where people were making the same calculations, weighing ambition against humanity, success against sanity. Somewhere in Brooklyn, Mrs. Chen, the 60-year-old neighbor who'd become Mia's de facto evening guardian, was probably reading her a bedtime story. Again, instead of Ethan. Your personal life, Vivian said slowly, is not my concern. No, Ethan agreed, standing up. He was tall enough to look her in the eye, close enough to see the tiny imperfections in her makeup, the slight shadows under her eyes that suggested she wasn't sleeping well either. But my performance is. And you can't have one without the other. I'm not a machine, Vivian. Neither is my team. We're people. We have limits. Limits, she repeated, like the word was foreign. Is that what you think separates success from failure? Knowing your limits? I think it separates burnout from sustainability. I think it separates people who build careers from people who destroy themselves trying. Vivian's laugh was sharp and entirely humorless. How philosophical, how very principled. Tell me, Ethan, what exactly did you think you were signing up for when you joined Apex? Did you imagine this was a 9-to-5 operation? Did you think excellence came from people who watched the clock? I thought I was joining a company, not a cult. The words were out before Ethan could stop them, harsh and unfiltered, and he watched Vivian's face transform. Color flooded her cheeks, the first real emotion he'd seen from her beyond cold calculation. Her hand moved, and for a split second Ethan thought she might actually slap him. Instead, she grabbed the crystal paperweight from his desk, a Morrison Hotel's promotional piece, ironically, and hurled it at the wall behind his head. The crash was spectacular. Glass exploded in a shower of fragments, and suddenly the entire floor seemed to freeze. Through the glass walls of his office, Ethan could see heads popping up from cubicles, eyes going wide. Marcus from Creative stood frozen in the hallway, coffee cup halfway to his lips. Sarah from Accounts actually had her phone out, probably texting the group chat that was definitely already blowing up. You think you know pressure? Vivian's voice was shaking now, low and dangerous. You think you understand what it takes to build something real? I was 26 years old when I started this company with maxed out credit cards and a studio apartment so small I could touch opposite walls with my arms spread. I worked 100-hour weeks. I slept under my desk. I missed birthdays and holidays and every single normal thing people take for granted because I refused to fail. And what did you gain? Ethan demanded. A company? Success? Money? What did you lose, Vivian? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you traded everything human for a corner office and a reputation for being untouchable. You don't know anything about me. No, Ethan agreed. Because you don't let anyone close enough to know. You built your empire. Congratulations. But who's going to be there when you actually need someone? Who's going to care about Vivian Hart, the person, not the CEO? She moved then, closing the distance between them so fast Ethan barely registered it before she was there. In his space, her hand fisted in his shirt collar. Up close, he could see that her eyes weren't just gray. They held flecks of blue, like storm clouds breaking. Her breathing was uneven, and there was something wild in her expression, something desperate and dangerous. You don't get to... She started, but Ethan cut her off. I don't get to what? Tell you the truth? Point out that you're so busy being perfect, you've forgotten how to be a person. Shut up, she hissed. Make me. It was the wrong thing to say. Or maybe it was exactly right. Either way, Vivian kissed him. There was nothing tentative about it, nothing gentle or exploratory. She kissed him like she was trying to prove something, like she was angry and desperate and utterly lost all at once. Her hands moved from his collar to his face, and Ethan's brain short-circuited somewhere between shock and a response his body made without consulting him first. His hands found her waist. When had he reached for her? And for 5 seconds, or 5 years, or some impossible measure of time, The entire world narrowed to the taste of her lipstick and the sound of her breathing and the feeling that everything had just catastrophically shifted. She pulled back first, her eyes wide with something that might have been horror. Ethan's phone erupted on the desk, the shrill ringtone cutting through the moment like a blade. They both looked at it. The screen lit up with the school's number, and Ethan's stomach dropped through the floor. He grabbed it, stepping back from Vivian, his hand shaking slightly as he answered. "This is Ethan Brooks." "Mr. Brooks, this is Nurse Patterson at Riverside Elementary." The woman's voice was professionally calm, which somehow made it worse. "Mia's running a fever of 104. We've given her children's acetaminophen, but she needs to go home or possibly to urgent care. We've been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. The room spun. 20 minutes. He'd silenced his phone during a conference call 2 hours ago and forgotten to turn the ringer back on. 20 minutes his daughter had been sick and scared, and he hadn't known. "I'm on my way," he said, already moving toward the door. "Tell her I'm coming. 10 minutes. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He ended the call and looked back at Vivian, who stood frozen exactly where he'd left her, her expression unreadable. The evidence of what they'd just done hung in the air between them like smoke. "I have to go," Ethan said, grabbing his jacket and keys. "The Morrison can wait," he finished. "My daughter can't." He was halfway to the elevator before he heard her heels clicking behind him. "Ethan!" He jabbed the down button, willing the elevator to hurry, trying not to think about Mia alone in the nurse's office, trying not to feel the ghost of Vivian's lips on his, trying not to let the panic rising in his chest take over completely. "Ethan," Vivian said again, closer now. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Ethan stepped inside and turned to face her. "What we just," she started, "was a mistake," he finished, "or insanity, or both. I can't think about it right now. Mia comes first. She always comes first." The doors started to close, but Vivian's hand shot out, stopping them. "Which hospital?" "What?" "If you're taking her to urgent care, which one? Riverside Medical Center is closest to the school, but Mount Sinai has a better pediatric unit." Ethan stared at her. "Why would you? Just tell me." "Riverside Elementary is on 83rd. Probably Riverside Medical." Vivian nodded, stepping back. The doors closed, and Ethan was alone with his reflection in the polished steel, his tie askew, his expression shell-shocked. What the hell had just happened? And why had Vivian Hart, Ice Queen CEO, just asked him about hospitals? The ride down felt eternal. Ethan's mind was racing, jumping between the impossible kiss and Mia's fever and the fact that he'd essentially just told his boss that her company took second place to his daughter. Career suicide. That's what the rational part of his brain whispered. You just committed career suicide. But the other part, the part that had spent 3 months watching Mia's bedtime get later and later, watching her art projects pile up unfinished, watching her 7-year-old eyes get that resigned look kids shouldn't know how to make. That part said he should have done it months ago. The elevator opened onto the lobby, and Ethan ran. The night air hit him like a slap as he burst through the glass doors. Manhattan in October was all sharp edges and colder than it should be, the kind of weather that hinted winter was coming whether you were ready or not. Ethan's car was in the garage 2 blocks away. He'd never make it in 10 minutes. He flagged a cab, something that should have been impossible at this hour, but the universe apparently took pity on him. "Riverside Elementary, 83rd and Columbus," he told the driver. "And I'll tip you double if you can get there in under 8 minutes." The driver, a woman with gray hair and knowing eyes, just nodded and pulled into traffic. Ethan called Mrs. Chen. She answered on the second ring. "I'm so sorry," he said before she could speak. "Emergency at Mia's school. She's sick. I'm heading there now." "I heard," Mrs. Chen said, and Ethan could picture her in her apartment across the hall from his, probably knitting something practical while watching Jeopardy. "The school called me when they couldn't reach you. I'm already here, Mr. Brooks, in the nurse's office. Mia's okay. Scared, but okay." The relief was physical. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be there in..." He checked the streets flying past. 6 minutes. "We'll be waiting." The cab driver was good. They made it in 7 minutes, and Ethan threw 2 20s at her before sprinting toward the school's main entrance. The building was mostly dark, after-hours mode, but the administrative lights were still on. He buzzed the intercom, and the door clicked open immediately. The nurse's office was at the end of the main hallway, past construction paper autumn leaves and Halloween decorations that seemed obscenely cheerful. Ethan could hear Mia before he saw her, that particular whimper she made when she was trying not to cry, the sound that never failed to absolutely destroy him. He pushed open the door, and there she was. Mia sat on the vinyl examination table, looking impossibly small in her purple sweater and jeans, her dark curls, so like her mother's, plastered to her forehead with sweat. Mrs. Chen stood beside her, one weathered hand on Mia's shoulder, and Nurse Patterson hovered nearby with a chart. "Daddy!" Mia's face crumpled, and she reached for him. Ethan crossed the room in 2 strides and scooped her up, feeling the heat radiating off her small body even through her clothes. She buried her face in his neck, and he could feel her shaking. "I've got you, baby," he murmured. "I've got you. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner." "My head hurts," Mia whimpered, "and my throat." "I know, sweetheart. We're going to fix it." Nurse Patterson stepped forward, professional and efficient. "She's been this temperature for at least 45 minutes. The acetaminophen should start working soon, but I'd recommend getting her checked at urgent care, especially if it doesn't come down in the next hour. Could be strep throat or flu." Ethan nodded, holding Mia closer. "Thank you for staying late." "It's my job." But her eyes were kind when she said it. "Take care of her." Mrs. Chen gathered Mia's backpack and jacket. "I'll come with you to urgent care. You'll need help with paperwork and such." "You don't have to—" "Mr. Brooks," Mrs. Chen said firmly, "I'm 72 years old. I've raised 4 children and helped with 6 grandchildren. I know what needs doing. Let me help." There was no arguing with her, and honestly, Ethan was grateful. They made it to the cab, a different one, but the driver took one look at Mia and drove with careful urgency. And 15 minutes later, Ethan was filling out forms in the Riverside Medical Center waiting room while Mrs. Chen kept Mia entertained with a story about her grandson's new puppy. The urgent care center was the special kind of liminal space that existed after dark. Too bright, too quiet, full of people in various states of misery waiting for their turn. A kid with a broken arm, a college student who couldn't stop coughing, an elderly man holding his wife's hand while she shivered under a hospital blanket. Ethan had just finished the insurance paperwork when the automatic doors whooshed open and Vivian Hart walked in. She'd changed. The power suit was gone, replaced by jeans, actual jeans, something Ethan hadn't known she owned, and a cashmere sweater under a long coat. Her hair was down, falling in dark waves past her shoulders. She looked younger, human, and completely out of place in an urgent care waiting room. Ethan stood slowly, aware that Mrs. Chen's sharp eyes had tracked his movement and were now assessing Vivian with the particular intensity of elderly women who'd perfected the art of reading situations. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked quietly, moving away from where Mia was distracted with Mrs. Chen's story. Vivian's eyes found Mia immediately. "Is she okay?" "High fever, probably strep or flu. They'll see her soon." Ethan crossed his arms. "You didn't answer my question." Vivian seemed to struggle with the words, which was so unlike her that Ethan almost couldn't process it. "I wanted to make sure." "Make sure of what?" "That you made it. That she was okay." Vivian's gaze was still on Mia, and there was something in her expression that Ethan couldn't quite read. "I know what it's like to be 7 and sick and scared." Before Ethan could respond, Mia looked up and saw Vivian. Her whole face transformed, lighting up despite the fever. "Miss Vivi!" And then everything Ethan thought he knew about Vivian Hart and his daughter's life completely rearranged itself. Mia scrambled off Mrs. Chen's lap and ran, sick as she was, straight to Vivian, who knelt down and caught her in a hug that looked practiced, natural, like they'd done it 100 times before. "Hey, sunshine," Vivian said softly, and her voice was different, warmer, gentler, completely transformed. "I heard you're not feeling well." "My throat hurts," Mia said, still holding on to Vivian, "and Daddy was late, and I was scared." Something flickered across Vivian's face, pain, maybe, or recognition. But he came. That's what matters. He always comes. "Do you know my daddy?" Mia asked, looking between them with fever-bright eyes. Ethan watched Vivian's expression carefully calibrate itself. We work together. Oh. Mia seemed to accept this. Miss Vivi reads to our class every Wednesday. She does all the voices. Today she read us Charlotte's Web, and she made Charlotte sound wise and Wilbur sound scared, and it was so good. The world tilted slightly on its axis. Ethan stared at Vivian, who was still kneeling on the hospital floor, still holding his daughter, and nothing made sense anymore. He started, but couldn't finish. Vivian looked up at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, her expression was completely unguarded. Wednesday mornings. I volunteer at Riverside Elementary, reading program. I've been doing it for 2 years. Mia never mentioned, you asked her about school? Vivian's voice was gentle, but the question landed like a punch. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. When was the last time he'd really asked Mia about her day, beyond the cursory, how was school? When was the last time he'd sat down and let her tell him about Charlotte's Web or art class, or the reading volunteer who apparently did voices? She's in Miss Anderson's class, Vivian continued, standing up but keeping one hand on Mia's shoulder. Seat by the window. Loves art but struggles with math. Best friends with a girl named Sophie who has a cat named Mr. Whiskers. She wrote a story last month about a dragon who was afraid of the dark, and it was extraordinary. How do you Because I pay attention. Vivian's eyes met his. Because every Wednesday I spend an hour with these kids, and they're the best hour of my week. They don't care about quarterly earnings or market share or whether I'm brilliant or impossible. They just care about whether I can make Templeton the rat sound greedy enough or make Fern sound brave. Mrs. Chen, who'd been watching this entire exchange with the expression of someone mentally taking notes for future gossip, stood up and approached. You must be the famous Miss Vivi. Mia talks about you constantly. Does she? Vivian's smile was soft, real. I hope good things. The best things. Mrs. Chen's eyes were sharp. She says you're the prettiest and smartest lady in the world, and that you always have time to listen to her stories after reading. Pink touched Vivian's cheeks, an actual blush. Ethan filed this information away with all the other impossible things that had happened in the last hour. Mia Brooks? The nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Ethan moved automatically, but Mia grabbed Vivian's hand. Will you come too, Miss Vivi? I'm scared of doctors. Ethan watched Vivian look at him, asking permission without words. He should say no. He should maintain boundaries. He should do any number of sensible things that would keep his professional life separate from his daughter's volunteer reading program. Of course she can, Ethan heard himself say. They followed the nurse back to an examination room, a strange parade of guardian and employer and elderly neighbor and sick child. The doctor was young and efficient, diagnosed strep throat in under 10 minutes, prescribed antibiotics and rest, and sent them on their way with instructions and a prescription that Ethan could fill at the 24-hour pharmacy downstairs. Through it all, Vivian stayed. She held Mia's other hand when the throat swab made her gag. She asked the doctor intelligent questions about medication schedules and school attendance. She was gentle and present, and nothing like the woman who'd thrown a paperweight at Ethan's wall 3 hours ago. By the time they made it back to the waiting room, Mia was fighting sleep despite the fever, leaning heavily against Ethan's shoulder while he filled the prescription. Mrs. Chen had already called them a car service. My treat, don't argue, and was waiting by the exit. Vivian walked them out. The October air was colder now, well past midnight, and Ethan could see her breath misting in the streetlights. Thank you, he said quietly, while Mia dozed against his chest. For coming. For everything. Vivian's shears were shoved in her coat pockets. She looked younger like this, uncertain. I didn't know she was your daughter. For 3 months I didn't know. Every Wednesday I'd read to her class and she'd tell me about her daddy, who worked so hard and was so tired all the time, and I never connected. How could you? I should have. Her voice was fierce with something like regret. I should have paid more attention, should have asked more questions, should have... Vivian. Ethan waited until she looked at him. You read to second graders every Wednesday morning. You remember their names and their stories and their fears. You do voices. That's more than most people do. But I made her daddy work until... Yeah, you did. Ethan wasn't going to let her off the hook completely. And we're going to talk about that, about Morrison and deadlines and what's sustainable. But not tonight. The car service pulled up, a sleek black sedan. Mrs. Chen was already climbing in the back, settling herself with her purse and Mia's backpack. Monday, Vivian said. My office. 8 a.m. We'll talk about everything. Everything? Her eyes met his, and he saw the kiss there between them, unresolved. Everything. Ethan nodded and carried Mia to the car. He was almost settled in the seat when he heard Vivian call his name. He looked back. She stood in the circle of light from the hospital entrance, looking smaller somehow, more vulnerable. You're a good father, Ethan. She knows that. Even when you're late, she knows. The car door closed before he could respond, and they pulled away into the night, leaving Vivian Hart standing alone outside Riverside Medical Center at 1:23 in the morning, watching them go. Mia stirred against his shoulder. Daddy? Yeah, baby? Miss Vivi is sad sometimes, I can tell, even when she smiles. Mia's voice was thick with sleep and fever. You should be her friend. She needs friends. Mrs. Chen made a small sound that might have been agreement or knowing or both. Ethan looked out the window at the city passing by, at the lights and shadows and the endless motion of New York after dark, and thought about the woman who'd kissed him and thrown glass at his wall and knelt on a hospital floor to comfort his daughter, about the person behind the perfect armor, the vulnerability she'd shown for 5 seconds before everything fractured. Maybe I should, he said softly. But Mia was already asleep, and Mrs. Chen had closed her eyes, and Ethan was left alone with his thoughts, and the ghost of Vivian's lips on his, and the knowledge that Monday morning would bring conversations he wasn't sure he was ready to have. The car turned onto his street, familiar brownstones and corner delis, and the comfortable shabbiness of his Brooklyn neighborhood. This was real life. Scraped together rent and reliable neighbors and a daughter who needed him. Everything else, corner offices and impossible deadlines and CEOs who kissed like they were drowning, that was the complication. But as Ethan carried Mia up 3 flights of stairs to their apartment, as Mrs. Chen followed with promises to check in tomorrow, as he tucked his daughter into bed and smoothed the sweaty curls from her forehead, he couldn't help but wonder if maybe complications were sometimes the point. Mia's fever broke around 3 a.m. Ethan stayed up watching her sleep, monitoring her temperature, texting his team that he'd be out tomorrow, and absolutely not thinking about Vivian Hart's expression when she'd realized who Mia was. Outside, Brooklyn settled into its pre-dawn quiet, that brief window when even the city seemed to pause and breathe. And somewhere across the river, in a glass office tower or a sleek Manhattan apartment, Vivian was probably not sleeping either, probably thinking about the same impossible kiss, probably wondering how everything had gotten so complicated so fast. Monday, Ethan thought. Monday they'd talk. But tonight, Mia slept safe and medicated and home. And that was all that mattered. That was always all that mattered. The weekend passed in a blur of children's acetaminophen, cartoon marathons, and the particular exhaustion that came from caring for a sick child. By Sunday evening, Mia's fever had been gone for 24 hours, her throat was less raw, and she was begging to go back to school just so she wouldn't be bored anymore. Ethan took that as a good sign. What wasn't a good sign was the way his stomach twisted every time he thought about Monday morning, about the meeting, about everything that had happened in that glass-walled office before the world had tilted sideways. Sunday night, after Mia was asleep, Ethan stood in his small kitchen making coffee he didn't need and staring at his phone. He'd received exactly 3 work messages all weekend, unprecedented restraint from Apex Marketing. 2 were from Marcus in Creative, asking about Mia and telling him not to worry about Morrison. The 3rd had come at 11:47 p.m. Friday. Sender, Vivian Hart. All it said was, "Take care of her. We'll manage." Ethan had read those 6 words about 40 times, trying to extract meaning from the spaces between them. Was it a boss being reasonable about a family emergency? Or was it something else, something that acknowledged what had happened between them? He didn't know. Wasn't sure he wanted to know. At 10:15 p.m., his phone rang. Ethan looked at the screen and his heart did something complicated. Vivian Hart, calling, not texting. He answered, "Hello? Is she better?" No preamble, no small talk. Classic Vivian. "Fever's gone. She's on antibiotics, complaining about being bored, which the pediatrician says is the best sign." "Good." A pause. "That's good." Silence stretched between them. Ethan could hear something in the background on her end. Music, maybe, or traffic. "Vivian, I'm outside your building," she said abruptly. Ethan crossed to his living room window and looked down 3 floors to the street. A black town car idled at the curb, and standing beside it, phone to her ear, was Vivian. She'd traded the cashmere and jeans for tailored slacks and a coat that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, but her hair was still down, loose around her shoulders. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I don't know." Her voice was quiet. "I was driving home from dinner and Can you come down just for a minute?" Every reasonable part of Ethan's brain said no, said this was a terrible idea, said he should maintain boundaries and professional distance and not meet his boss on a dark street corner at 10:17 on a Sunday night. "Give me 2 minutes," he heard himself say. He checked on Mia, deeply asleep, curled around her stuffed elephant, and left his apartment door cracked so he could hear if she called. Mrs. Chen was across the hall and had made him promise to knock if he needed anything, day or night. He'd be gone 5 minutes, 10 at most. The October air bit at him as he stepped outside. Vivian turned when she heard the door, and even in the orange glow of the streetlights, Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. "Hey," he said, stopping a few feet away. "Hey!" She looked at him, then away, then back. "I don't do this." "Do what?" "Show up at employees' homes, act on impulse, any of this." Vivian's hands were shoved in her pockets again, that gesture he was starting to recognize as uncertainty. "I have rules, boundaries, systems that work. And right now? Right now, all my systems are broken and I don't know how to fix them." She took a breath. "I need to apologize." "For kissing me or for the impossible deadlines?" "Both, neither. I don't know." Vivian ran a hand through her hair, frustration evident in every line of her body. "I threw a paperweight at your wall, Ethan. I kissed you in the middle of your office where anyone could see. I've been pushing you and your team past reasonable limits for 3 months because that's what I do. I push until things break or excel, and I don't know how to do it any other way." "Why?" Ethan asked quietly. "Why what? Why is that what you do? You're brilliant, Vivian. Everyone knows it. You could build something sustainable, something that doesn't burn through people like fuel, so why don't you?" She was quiet for a long moment. Up the street, a dog barked. A car passed, bass thumping from open windows. Normal Sunday night sounds in Brooklyn, a world away from glass towers and corner offices. "Because if I slow down, I have to think," Vivian finally said. "And if I think, I remember that I'm building all of this for no one, that I go home to an empty apartment every night, that I'm 34 years old and I can name every major client we've landed in the past 5 years, but I can't remember the last time someone asked me how I was doing and meant it." Well, Ethan felt something shift in his chest. "Vivian, Wednesday mornings," she continued, "when I read to those kids, I get to be someone different, someone who makes people happy instead of stressed, someone who matters for reasons that have nothing to do with profit margins or market share. And your daughter," Vivian's voice softened, "Mia looks at me like I hung the moon. She tells me about her life and asks me questions and draws me pictures, and for 1 hour a week I'm not the ice queen. I'm just Miss Vivi who does funny voices and brings snacks sometimes." "She drew you a picture?" 17 of them. I have them in my office." Vivian met his eyes. "The ones she doesn't take home to you, she gives to me. I have a whole drawer full of dragons and rainbows and stick figures labeled Miss Vivi and Mia's Adventure." The phrase hit Ethan like a punch. Mia's Adventures. That's what she calls them. She draws them for me too. I know, she tells me. She says her daddy is a hero who works really hard so they can have a good life. Vivian's voice cracked slightly. "And I'm the person making that hero work himself to exhaustion. I'm the reason you were 20 minutes late on Wednesday. I'm the complication in her adventure. You're also the person who showed up at the hospital, who held her hand during the throat swab, who's been reading to her every week for how long? Since she started second grade, September, 2 years ago. 2 years. Vivian had been part of Mia's life for 2 years, and Ethan hadn't known, hadn't asked, hadn't paid enough attention. I'm a terrible father, he said quietly. You're a single parent working an impossible job to provide for your daughter. That doesn't make you terrible. That makes you human. Vivian took a step closer. But Ethan, something has to change. At work, with us, with all of it. Because what we're doing isn't sustainable, and I refuse to be the reason Mia stops drawing adventures. What are you suggesting? I don't know yet. That's why I'm here, standing on your street corner at 10:30 on a Sunday night, like some kind of disaster. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I run a multi-million-dollar company. I negotiate with Fortune 500 CEOs. I've built something from nothing, but standing here trying to figure out how to fix what I broke with you? I have no idea what I'm doing. Ethan looked at this woman, brilliant, impossible, vulnerable, and made a decision that was probably stupid and definitely complicated, but felt right anyway. Monday morning, he said, 8 a.m., your office. We're going to have that conversation about Morrison and deadlines and sustainability. We're going to set actual boundaries, and we're going to figure out how to work together without destroying each other. And the kiss? Was a mistake we're not going to repeat. Even as he said it, Ethan wasn't sure he believed it. Vivian studied his face. You're a terrible liar. Yeah, well, you're a terrible boss. I know. She smiled, small and sad. I'm working on it. A light clicked on in the window above them, Mrs. Chen's apartment. Ethan could practically feel her watching, probably already composing the questions she'd ask tomorrow. I should go, he said. Mia might wake up. Ethan? Vivian caught his arm as he turned. Thank you for letting me explain, for not telling me to go to hell, which I probably deserve. You don't deserve that. You deserve someone who tells you the truth, even when it's hard, maybe especially then. Is that what you're going to be? My truth teller? Someone has to do it. He went back inside, very aware of Vivian's eyes on him until the door closed. When he checked on Mia, she was exactly as he'd left her, peacefully asleep, oblivious to the adult complications happening 3 floors below. Monday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of October day that threatened rain but couldn't quite commit. Ethan dropped Mia at school. She was cleared to return, much to her delight, and watched her run to meet Sophie by the playground. Normal, safe. His real life, uncomplicated by glass towers and impossible women. Then he got on the subway, heading into Manhattan, and normal disappeared. The Apex marketing offices looked the same as always, sleek, expensive, intimidating in their perfection. But Ethan walked through them with different eyes now. He saw the exhausted designer who'd been there until midnight Friday, the account manager whose hand shook slightly from too much coffee and not enough sleep, the intern who looked like she might cry when her computer froze. This was what Vivian built. Not just success, but casualties. Her office was on the 42nd floor, corner position with views of the city that cost more per square foot than most people's entire apartments. Ethan had been here exactly twice before, once for his final interview, once for a quarterly review. Both times, Vivian had been pure CEO, professional, distant, untouchable. He knocked at 7:58 a.m. Come in. She was already at her desk, but she stood when he entered. She'd pulled her hair back today, armor in place, but Ethan could see the slight shadows under her eyes. She hadn't slept well either. Ethan. Vivian. They stood there for a beat, the kiss hanging between them like smoke. Coffee? She offered, gesturing to the elaborate machine in the corner. Please. She made 2 cups with the kind of precision she brought to everything, then handed him one and sat in one of the chairs by the window rather than behind her desk. Equal footing. Interesting choice. Ethan took the other chair. So, Morrison. Is 4 days ahead of schedule, Vivian said. Marcus and the team pulled together this weekend. I approved the final concepts yesterday evening. Client review is Wednesday, but I'm confident they'll love it. 4 days ahead? Turns out when you tell people their director's daughter is sick and they can have a reasonable timeline, they produce excellent work quickly. Vivian's smile was rueful. Revolutionary concept. You changed the deadline. I changed everything. New policies go into effect today: 40-hour work weeks unless absolutely critical, mandatory time off, family emergency protocols that actually function. She pulled out her tablet, showed him the document. I had my lawyers work on it all weekend. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Ethan scrolled through the policy changes. They were comprehensive, radical even. Vivian, this is overdue. I know. She set down her coffee. I built this company on the idea that excellence requires sacrifice, that success means giving everything, and maybe that worked for me because I had nothing else to give it up for. But I can't ask that of people who have lives, families, reasons to go home at reasonable hours. What changed? I watched a 7-year-old with a 104-degree fever light up because her reading volunteer showed up at the hospital. I realized that I've been so focused on building something that I forgot why I was building it. Vivian's eyes met his. And I kissed someone who told me the truth even when it was hard to hear, and I realized I'd rather have that than another perfect quarter. Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Vivian, let me finish. She stood, paced to the window. You asked me yesterday why I push so hard. I gave you the surface answer, the fear of slowing down, the empty apartment, all of that. But the real answer is harder. I'm listening. Vivian was quiet for a moment, looking out at Manhattan spreading below them. I was 7 years old when my mother left. Just walked out one Tuesday morning and never came back. My father tried his best, but he was working 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat. I spent a lot of time alone. A lot of time being the kid whose mom didn't want her enough to stay. Ethan's throat tightened. Vivian, I'm not telling you this for pity. I'm telling you because you asked why, and this is why. I built Apex to prove I was worth wanting, worth staying for. If I could just be successful enough, perfect enough, excellent enough, then no one would ever walk away again. She turned to face him. Except they do. They quit. They burn out. They leave, just like she did, because I push too hard and demand too much and forget that people aren't machines. You're not your mother's abandonment, Ethan said quietly. No, but I'm definitely my response to it. Vivian came back to her chair, sat. Wednesday, when Mia ran to me at the hospital, I understood something. She doesn't care about my success. She cares that I do voices, that I remember her stories, that I show up. And when I realized you're her father, that I've been making the one person she talks about constantly work himself to exhaustion, it broke something open. So the policy changes are because I refuse to be the reason kids stop getting bedtime stories, or art projects, or fathers who show up. Vivian's voice was fierce. And they're because you were right. Excellence doesn't come from people watching the clock, but it also doesn't come from people too exhausted to think straight. Ethan looked at the woman across from him, still sharp, still brilliant, but with cracks showing now in the perfect armor. What happens now? Now we figure out how to work together, really work together. Not just you executing my vision and burning out in the process. Vivian pulled out another document. I want you to be my partner on this. Not just marketing director. I want you to help me rebuild how Apex operates. Someone who'll tell me when I'm pushing too hard. Someone who understands both excellence and humanity. That's a significant role change. It comes with a significant raise in equity stake, and reasonable hours, and the authority to push back when I'm being impossible. She slid the document across. Read it, think about it. But Ethan, I need someone who gives a damn about people, not just profit. And you do. It's why you're good at what you do. Ethan scanned the offer. The numbers were staggering, life-changing. The kind of security that meant Mia's college fund and no more worry about rent and maybe even a better apartment. And us? He asked quietly. Vivian's expression shifted to something more vulnerable. What happened Wednesday was unprofessional and impulsive and broke about 17 rules I have about workplace relationships. But I can't stop thinking about it. About you. About the way you look at your daughter like she's your entire world. About how you told me the truth even when it was hard. About the fact that for 3 months we've been circling each other, fighting and pushing and testing boundaries. And maybe that was because we both knew something was there. This is complicated. Everything worthwhile is. Vivian leaned forward. I'm not asking you to decide anything right now about us. I'm asking you to consider the job. to help me fix what I've broken here. The rest, we can figure out as we go. You mean if we can keep from throwing paperweights at each other? I mean if I can learn to be the person Mia sees on Wednesday mornings instead of the ice queen everyone else sees. If you can trust that I'm capable of change. If we can build something professional that maybe, possibly, eventually could be something more. A knock interrupted them. Marcus stuck his head in, then froze when he saw Ethan. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were in a meeting. It's fine, Vivian said, her CEO mask sliding back into place seamlessly. What do you need? Morrison loved the concepts. They want to move forward immediately, and they're talking about doubling the contract for next quarter. Vivian's smile was genuine. That's excellent. Tell the team well done. And Marcus, everyone who worked this weekend gets Wednesday off. Paid. Marcus blinked. Seriously? Seriously. New policy. Family time is company time. After he left, Vivian turned back to Ethan. See? Change is possible. Even for me. Ethan looked at the offer letter, at the numbers and promises and potential, looked at Vivian, at the hope and fear and determination in her eyes, thought about Mia asking him to be Miss Vivi's friend because she needs friends. I need to think about it, he said. The job, the partnership, all of it. That's fair. But Vivian, what you're trying to do here, rebuilding the culture, changing how things work, that's not a one-person job. You'll need help, real help. Is that a yes? That's a, let me read the fine print and talk to Mia and make sure I'm not making a decision based on a kiss that shouldn't have happened. He stood. Give me until Wednesday. Wednesday. Vivian stood too. And Ethan? I am reading to Mia's class Wednesday morning. I committed to it long before any of this happened. If that's going to be weird. Don't stop, Ethan said immediately. Whatever happens with us, with work, with anything, don't stop reading to those kids. Mia would be devastated. So would I. They stood there in her office with its city views and expensive furniture and the ghost of last week's argument, and Ethan felt the weight of possibility pressing down. This could be the best decision of his career, or the most complicated mistake he'd ever make. I should get to work, he said. Morrison debrief at 2? I'll be there. He made it to the door before Vivian called his name. He turned. Thank you, she said, for not running. For listening, for considering this instead of telling me to go to hell. You said that already. Sunday night. I know, but I mean it more now. Her smile was small, uncertain. I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable or asking for help or any of it, but I'm trying. I can see that. Is it enough? The question hung in the air between them, weighted with more than just job offers and policy changes. Ethan thought about what enough meant, thought about Mia's drawings and Wednesday morning reading sessions, and the way Vivian had held his daughter's hand in the hospital. Ask me Wednesday, he said. The rest of Monday passed in a strange new rhythm. The office felt different. People seemed cautiously hopeful, whispering about the new policies, about the fact that the Morrison team got Wednesday off, about how the Ice Queen seemed to have thawed slightly. Ethan fielded approximately 14 questions from Marcus about what had happened in his meeting with Vivian, all of which he deflected with practiced vagueness. That evening, he picked Mia up from after-school care, a rare 5:30 pickup instead of the usual 6:45, and took her for pizza. Her favorite place, the one with the questionable decor and the perfect crust. Daddy seems happy, Mia observed around a mouthful of pepperoni. Yeah? What makes you say that? You're doing that thing where you smile at your phone, she grinned, showing the gap in her teeth. Is it because work isn't being mean anymore? Ethan laughed. Work isn't mean, baby, just busy. Miss Vivi says busy is okay, but too busy isn't. Mia took another bite. She says even bees rest sometimes. Does she now? Uh-huh. She told us that when we were learning about insects. She's really smart, Daddy, and nice, and she smells pretty. She does she? Mia nodded enthusiastically. Like flowers, but fancy. Sophie says that means expensive perfume, but I don't know what that means. I just know it's nice. She tilted her head, studying him. Do you think Miss Vivi is nice? Ethan chose his words carefully. I think she's complicated, But yes, she seems nice. Complicated how? Well, she's my boss at work, so I see a different side of her than you do. The not nice side, the serious side, the side that has to make hard decisions and run a big company. That's different from doing voices for Charlotte's Web. Mia considered this. Grown-ups are weird. Why can't she just be nice all the time? Because being in charge means sometimes you have to do things people don't like. Make rules, set deadlines, that stuff. But you could help her be nicer, Mia said, with the absolute confidence of a 7-year-old who believed problems were simple if you just tried hard enough. You're good at that. You help me be nicer to Sophie even when she takes my favorite markers. It's not quite the same thing, sweetheart. Why not? Ethan looked at his daughter, at her earnest face and complete faith that kindness could fix anything, and felt something in his chest tighten. You know what? Maybe it's not that different after all. Tuesday, Ethan read the offer letter 3 more times, ran the numbers, considered the implications, called his best friend Jake, who he'd met in college and who'd talked him through the divorce and every major decision since, and laid out the situation, minus the kiss. Some things didn't need sharing. Let me get this straight, Jake said. Your nightmare boss, who everyone says is impossible to work for, is offering you a partnership, a massive raise, and the power to actually change things. And you're hesitating why? Because it's complicated. Life is complicated. That doesn't mean you turn down a good opportunity. It might be too good. Like there's a catch I'm not seeing. Or, Jake said, maybe she's genuine. Maybe she actually wants to change. People do, you know, grow, learn, realize they've been assholes and try to do better. Since when did you become an optimist? Since my incredibly stubborn best friend finally has a chance to have job security and actually see his kid before bedtime. Take the job, man. Worst case, it doesn't work out and you have leverage to find something better. After they hung up, Ethan sat in his small living room listening to Mia practice her reading in her bedroom. She was working through a book about dragons, her current obsession, and he could hear her sounding out the harder words. His phone buzzed. Vivian. No pressure on the decision, just wanted to say Mia's class is reading James and the Giant Peach tomorrow. Thought you might want to know. Ethan stared at the text. She was reading to Mia tomorrow, Wednesday morning, and she'd thought to tell him. He texted back. She'll love that. She's been into fantastical adventure stories lately. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Where do you think she gets that from? Definitely her mother. I'm too practical. I've seen your Morrison presentations. You're plenty creative. That's different. Is it? Ethan smiled at his phone. They were texting, like normal people, like this was normal. Get some sleep, Vivian. Wednesday's a big day. For the decision? For the Giant Peach. Wednesday morning, Ethan did something he hadn't done in months. He took a personal hour and went to Mia's school. He checked in at the office, got a visitor badge, and made his way to Miss Anderson's classroom at 9:15, right when reading time was scheduled to start. He stood outside the door looking through the window. The second graders were sitting in a circle on the carpet, wiggling with anticipation. And there was Vivian, already settled in the reading chair, hair down, wearing jeans and a soft sweater instead of armor, holding a copy of James and the Giant Peach. Mia saw him first. Her whole face lit up. Daddy! 20 small heads turned. Vivian looked up, surprise flickering across her face before it settled into something softer. Mr. Brooks, Miss Anderson said, appearing at his elbow. This is unexpected. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just wanted to see reading time, if that's okay. Of course, come in. Ethan slipped into the classroom, hyper-aware of 20 pairs of curious eyes and 1 pair of gray ones that saw straight through him. He found a seat at the back in a chair designed for people half his size. All right, everyone, Vivian said, her voice warm and animated. Today we're meeting a boy named James who has a very unusual adventure with some very unusual friends. Are we ready? Yes, Miss Vivi, the chorus came back, and then she started reading, and Ethan understood. She didn't just read the words, she became them. James was hopeful and scared. The aunts were cruel and sharp. The magical man was mysterious. Every character had a voice, a presence, and the kids were transfixed. So was Ethan. He watched Mia's face, saw her hanging on every word, watched the other kids lean in when the tension built, watched Vivian, brilliant, impossible Vivian, pour everything she had into making these 7-year-olds believe in magic and giant peaches and the possibility of escape from terrible circumstances. When the chapter ended, Mia raised her hand. "Miss Vivi, will James be okay? I don't like his aunts." "That's a very good question, Mia. What do you think? Will he be okay?" "I think yes," Mia said carefully. "Because the story wouldn't be about him if he wasn't going to have an adventure and be happy. Right?" Vivian's smile was gentle. "I think you're absolutely right. Sometimes the best adventures start in the hardest places, and James is braver than he knows." Her eyes found Ethan's across the classroom, just for a second, and he saw the question there. Saw her hoping he understood what she was trying to say. He did. After reading time ended and the kids transitioned to math, Ethan waited in the hallway. Vivian emerged a few minutes later, book tucked under her arm. "You came," she said. "I had to see it. What Mia's been talking about for 2 years. And you're extraordinary with them, with her. This isn't just volunteer work for you, is it?" "No." Vivian's voice was quiet. "This is the part of my week that reminds me why any of it matters. These kids don't care about my company or my reputation. They just care that I show up and make the stories good." "Vivian, I know we said Wednesday for your decision, but you don't have to—" "Yes," Ethan interrupted. She blinked. "Yes?" "Yes to the partnership. Yes to helping you rebuild Apex. Yes to giving this a chance." He took a breath. "And yes to seeing where this goes. With us. If you're serious about changing, about being the person I just watched in there instead of the one who throws paperweights." Vivian's expression transformed, hope and relief and something that looked like joy. "I'm serious. I swear I'm serious. Then we'll figure it out, together, professionally and whatever else this is." She stepped closer, voice dropping. "This is me terrified I'll mess it up. This is me wanting to kiss you again and knowing we're standing in an elementary school hallway. This is me not having any idea what I'm doing but wanting to try anyway." "Then we'll try," Ethan said. "But ground rules. Work stays work. Mia comes first, always. And if this gets complicated—" "When this gets complicated," Vivian corrected. "When it gets complicated, we talk. No throwing things, no running, just honest conversation." "I can do that. I think, with help." "Good thing you just hired a partner who specializes in truth-telling." Vivian laughed, real and warm and nothing like the Ice Queen. "Best decision I've made in years." They stood there in the elementary school hallway, surrounded by construction paper art projects and alphabet posters, and Ethan felt the future shifting into focus. Complicated, yes. Risky, absolutely. But maybe, just maybe, worth it. "I should get back to the office," Vivian said reluctantly. "Board meeting at 11. And I should probably return to work before Marcus sends out a search party." "Ethan?" She caught his hand, quick and gentle. "Thank you for taking a chance, for seeing past the armor, for letting me be part of Mia's life and yours. Thank you for showing up, for changing, for doing voices. Best voices in the business," she said solemnly, then smiled. "See you at the office, partner." She left first, heels clicking down the hallway, book under her arm, looking nothing like a CEO and everything like someone who'd just been given a second chance. Ethan stopped by Mia's classroom door one more time. Through the window, he could see her bent over her math worksheet, tongue between her teeth in concentration. Miss Anderson caught his eye and smiled, giving him a thumbs up. His daughter was safe, happy, loved. His job was about to get interesting in the best possible way. And Vivian Hart, Ice Queen, perfectionist, woman who did the best voices in the business, was willing to try something neither of them knew how to do. Build something real, together. Yeah, Ethan thought as he headed for the subway. Definitely complicated. Definitely worth it. The next 6 weeks unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance, where neither partner quite knew the steps, but both were determined not to step on each other's toes. Ethan's new role as partner became official on a cold November Monday, complete with an announcement to the company, a corner office 2 doors down from Vivian's, and the kind of authority that made people nervous when he walked into meetings. The changes at Apex were real. The 40-hour work week actually held. People started leaving at reasonable hours, started talking about weekend plans instead of weekend work sessions. The intern who'd looked ready to cry that first Monday was now smiling, designing brilliant campaigns, thriving under mentorship instead of pressure. Marcus told Ethan over coffee that it felt like working at a different company, and he meant it as a compliment. But the complicated part, the Ethan and Vivian part, that was harder to navigate. They were professional, painfully, carefully professional. In meetings, they were brilliant together, finishing each other's strategic thoughts, pushing each other toward better solutions. The creative team started calling them the Brain Trust, which was flattering and also slightly terrifying. But after hours, when the office emptied and it was just the two of them reviewing presentations or debating campaign directions, the air between them felt charged with everything they weren't saying. Vivian still read to Mia's class every Wednesday. Ethan made a point not to show up again, giving her that space to be Miss Vivi without the weight of their complicated, almost relationship watching. But Mia came home each week with stories, chattering about the latest chapter of whatever book they were reading, occasionally mentioning that Miss Vivi had asked about him. She wanted to know if you were eating enough vegetables, Mia reported one Wednesday evening over dinner. I told her probably not because you always let me pick what we eat, and I pick mac and cheese. Ethan nearly choked on his water. She asked about my vegetable intake? Uh-huh. And she said people who work hard need to take care of themselves. Mia speared a piece of broccoli, her vegetable compromise, and chewed thoughtfully. I think she worries about you, Daddy. Does she now? She gets this look, like the one you get when I forget my jacket and it's cold. Mia tilted her head. Are you and Miss Vivi friends now? You said you were going to be her friend because she needs friends. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds. Ethan chose his words carefully. We're working on it. Friendship takes time, especially for grown-ups. That's silly. Sophie and me became friends in like 5 minutes. Adults are more complicated. Adults are weird, Mia corrected. But I'm glad you're being nice to Miss Vivi. She seems happier lately. She smiles more. That night, after Mia was asleep, Ethan found himself texting Vivian. It had become a habit over the past weeks. Nothing inappropriate, just thoughts about work, occasional observations about life. Safe territory. Mia says you're worried about my vegetable consumption. The response came quickly. Mia is a reliable informant. Are you eating enough vegetables? Define enough. More than 0. Then technically, yes. Ethan. He could picture her expression, that mix of exasperation and fondness she got sometimes. Fine. I'll add a salad to my pizza order. Happy? Ecstatic, though I'm questioning your nutritional choices. Says the woman who lives on black coffee and what I suspect is mostly takeout. I resent that accusation. Sometimes I have yogurt for breakfast. Revolutionary. We're a mess, aren't we? The question made Ethan pause. The playful tone had shifted into something more honest, more vulnerable. Yeah, but we're working on it. Are we? Working on it? Or are we just circling around what we're actually trying to figure out? Ethan stared at his phone. They'd been so careful, so professional, but Vivian was right. They were circling, dancing around the real question of what they were becoming to each other. What do you want, Vivian? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, honestly, I want to take you to dinner, a real dinner, not a working dinner. I want to talk about things that have nothing to do with campaigns or clients. I want to know what you were like before you were a marketing director and a father. I want to figure out if what I feel when you're in a room is just attraction or something more. But I'm terrified of messing this up. Ethan's heart was doing complicated things in his chest. You're terrified? You run a multi-million-dollar company. You negotiate with corporate giants. You do voices for 7-year-olds without breaking a sweat. None of that scares me like this does, like you do. I'm not scary. You're the scariest thing I've encountered in years. You make me want things I've never let myself want. You make me think about futures that include more than quarterly earnings and market expansion. You make me wonder what it would be like to actually let someone in. Ethan sat in his small living room, phone in hand, and made a decision. Friday night, Mrs. Chen can watch Mia. I know a place in the West Village, nothing fancy, just good food and quiet enough to talk. 7 o'clock? The pause felt eternal. Then, yes, God, yes, but Ethan? Yeah? I haven't been on a real date in probably 4 years. I'm going to be terrible at this. Then we'll be terrible together. It's kind of our thing. Our thing, I like that. See you tomorrow, partner. See you tomorrow, Vivian. Friday arrived wrapped in the first real cold snap of the season, the kind of November weather that made New York feel properly autumnal. Ethan spent the day in back-to-back meetings, trying to focus on Q4 projections while his brain kept jumping to 7 o'clock and dinner and the fact that he was about to go on a date with Vivian Hart. A date. With his business partner, who also happened to be his daughter's volunteer reading teacher. Nothing complicated about that at all. Marcus cornered him around 3 o'clock. Okay, what's going on? What do you mean? You've checked your watch approximately 47 times in the past hour. You're distracted. And you've been wearing that expression usually reserved for when you're about to do something potentially stupid and definitely interesting. Ethan sighed. Marcus had known him too long. I have plans tonight. Plans that require you to check the time every 90 seconds? Plans that are none of your business. Marcus's eyes went wide. Oh my God, you have a date. I didn't say that. You absolutely have a date. Who is she? Do I know her? Please tell me it's not someone from the office, because that would be... Marcus stopped mid-sentence, his expression shifting from teasing to shock. No way. I don't know what you're talking about. You and Vivian. That's what's been happening. The new policies, the partnership, the weird tension in every meeting where you two are finishing each other's sentences and looking at each other like, oh my God, Ethan. Keep your voice down. Does she know you're completely gone for her? Because you are. I've watched you for 6 weeks dance around this woman like you're afraid she'll evaporate if you get too close. Ethan leaned against his desk. It's complicated. Everything worthwhile is. Marcus grinned. For what it's worth. I think it's good. You've been alone since Nora left. You deserve someone who sees you. And I've watched Vivian change since you started here. She's more human now, more real. That's because of you. Or because she decided to be better. Yeah, but you're the reason she wanted to try. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Go, have your date, be terrible at it together. Just maybe don't combust the office in the process. At 6:45, Ethan stood outside the restaurant, a small Italian place he'd discovered years ago, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles and food that tasted like someone's grandmother had been cooking all day. He was 15 minutes early because apparently he was now the kind of person who showed up early to dates he was nervous about. Vivian arrived at 6:52, and Ethan's brain temporarily short-circuited. She'd left the power suits at home. Instead, she wore a simple black dress and a coat that probably cost a fortune but looked effortlessly casual. Her hair was down, curling slightly at the ends, and she'd traded her usual severe makeup for something softer. She looked nervous. Vivian Hart, CEO and Ice Queen, looked nervous about a dinner date. Hi, she said, stopping in front of him. Hi, you look beautiful. Pink touched her cheeks. You clean up pretty well yourself. They stood there on the sidewalk, two successful professionals who between them could negotiate million-dollar deals, but apparently couldn't figure out how to walk into a restaurant. This is weird, right? Vivian said finally. This feels weird. Completely weird. Good. I thought it was just me. She took a breath. Okay. We can do this. It's just dinner. Just dinner, Ethan agreed and offered his arm. Shall we? The restaurant was exactly as Ethan remembered, warm and intimate and smelling like garlic and fresh bread. The owner, an elderly Italian woman named Rosa, greeted them with the kind of enthusiasm reserved for favorite customers, seated them at a corner table, and promised them the best meal of their lives. Once they were alone, wine poured and menus in hand, the silence stretched. So, Ethan started. So, Vivian echoed. They both laughed, the tension breaking slightly. This is ridiculous, Vivian said. We talk all day at work. We text, we debate strategy and campaign directions and company policy. Why is this hard? Because at work we have roles. We know who we're supposed to be. Ethan gestured between them. This is us trying to figure out who we are outside of CEO and partner and Mia's dad and Miss Vivi. I don't know who I am outside of work. Vivian's voice was quiet. That's the problem. I've been building Apex for so long that I forgot to build a life. Then tell me about before. Before Apex, before the corner office. Who was Vivian Hart at 25? She was quiet for a moment, fingers tracing patterns on her wine glass. Scared, ambitious, desperate to prove something. I was 2 years out of college working at a marketing firm that treated junior staff like disposable resources. I'd watch senior executives take credit for our work, watch them build empires on the backs of people they barely acknowledged. And I thought, I can do this better. I can build something that rewards talent and creates real value. So you started Apex. So I maxed out 3 credit cards, rented that studio apartment, and started calling every contact I had. I landed my first client, a small tech startup, by literally camping out in their lobby until the CEO agreed to meet with me. I gave them a presentation I'd worked on for 2 weeks straight, barely sleeping, surviving on coffee, and determination. And they said yes. That's incredible. That was the beginning. Every client after that, I worked twice as hard to prove I deserved to be there. I built Apex one impossible project at a time, one 18-hour day after another. And somewhere in there, I forgot how to do anything else. Forgot how to have friends or hobbies or any kind of life outside of work. What about relationships? Vivian's laugh was rueful. There were a few, but they all ended the same way. Me choosing work over them, me being too unavailable or too focused or too much. The last one was 4 years ago. He was a lawyer, smart and kind and patient. He proposed. I said I needed time to think about it. 2 weeks later, he moved to San Francisco for a job opportunity and never asked again. Can't say I blame him. Did you love him? I thought I did, but I loved Apex more. I loved the control and the success and the feeling of building something that was mine. And I realized I'd probably choose that over anyone. She looked up, met Ethan's eyes. Until you. The words hung in the air between them, honest and terrifying. Vivian, let me finish. She took a breath. You walked into Apex 3 months ago and you didn't fold. Everyone else either quits or becomes a version of me, all edges and armor and pushing. But you pushed back. You told me the truth even when it was hard. You showed me what I was sacrificing without making me feel like a monster for it. And then I found out you were Mia's dad, and everything I thought I knew about priorities completely rearranged itself. Because of Mia. Because of you. Both of you. Vivian's voice was soft now. I watched you race to that hospital, watched you hold your daughter like she was your entire world, and I understood something. Success without connection is just an expensive way to be lonely, and I've been lonely for a very long time. Ethan reached across the table, covered her hand with his. So have I. Since Nora left, I've been so focused on being everything Mia needs that I forgot I might need things too. Might want things. And then this impossible, brilliant woman kissed me and threw a paperweight at my wall and showed up at a hospital at 1 a.m, and I realized maybe I didn't have to do everything alone. We're a disaster, Vivian said, but she was smiling. Completely. So what do we do about it? I think we try. We take it slow, we keep Mia's needs first, we maintain professional boundaries at work, and we see if this thing between us is real or just the result of proximity and stress and one really poorly timed kiss. It's real, Vivian said quietly. For me, it's real. For me too. Rosa arrived then with their first course, beaming at them like she'd personally arranged their happiness. The food was extraordinary. Homemade pasta and sauce that tasted like it had been simmering for days. They ate and talked, and the conversation flowed easier now that the hard truths were out. Vivian told him about growing up in Philadelphia, about her father who'd worked himself to exhaustion trying to provide, about the mother who'd left when she was 7 and never looked back. She told him about college at Penn, about discovering she had a gift for understanding what made people respond to brands and messages, about the professors who'd believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Ethan told her about his own childhood in Michigan, about parents who'd loved each other fiercely and built a good life through hard work and humor, about meeting Nora in college, about the whirlwind romance that became a marriage that became complicated when Mia arrived and Nora realized motherhood wasn't what she wanted. About the morning 2 years ago, when he'd woken up to a note on the kitchen table saying she needed to find herself and couldn't do it here. "That must have destroyed you," Vivian said. "It did. But Mia saved me." Having to get up every morning, make breakfast, get her to school, be present for her life. It didn't leave room for me to fall apart. I had to keep going because she needed me to keep going. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the best thing I've ever done. Everything else, career, success, all of it, none of it matters compared to her. I know, I see it. It's one of the things that... Vivian stopped, took a breath. It's one of the things that makes me want to try this. To try us. Because you know what actually matters. They lingered over dessert, tiramisu that Rosa insisted they share, and talked about lighter things. Favorite movies and books, embarrassing moments, the peculiar quirks of New York living. Vivian admitted she was terrified of spiders. Ethan confessed he couldn't cook anything more complicated than scrambled eggs. They discovered they both loved old movies and terrible puns and the particular magic of the city at night. Outside the restaurant, the November cold had deepened. Ethan hailed a cab for Vivian, not ready to presume anything about how the night should end. "Thank you," she said, standing close enough that he could smell her perfume. Flowers, but fancy, just like Mia had said. This was perfect. Terrifying, but perfect. "We should do it again, if you want." "I want." She hesitated, then stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, Vivian." He watched her cab pull away, then walked the 15 blocks to the subway, too wired to want to ride, needing the cold air and motion to process what had just happened. They were trying. Actually trying to build something beyond work and professional respect. The next morning was Saturday, which meant pancakes and cartoons, and Mia's weekly art project takeover of the kitchen table. Ethan was flipping pancakes when Mia wandered in, still in her pajamas, hair a spectacular mess. "Morning, baby." "Morning." She climbed into her chair, watching him with sharp 7-year-old eyes. "You seem different." "Different how?" "Happy different. Like when you smile, it goes all the way up." Ethan plated her pancakes, added the obligatory chocolate chips arranged in a smiley face. "Maybe I am happy." "Because of Miss Vivi?" He turned to look at his daughter. "What makes you think that?" "Because you get the same look she does when someone says your name. All soft and weird." Mia poured syrup with the kind of concentration she usually reserved for art projects. "It's okay if you like her, Daddy. I like her too." "It's more complicated than that, sweetheart." "Why do grown-ups always say that? Things aren't complicated unless you make them complicated." She took a bite of pancake. "Miss Vivi is nice." "You're nice. You both work hard. You both like me. That's not complicated." "What if it doesn't work out? What if we try and it's not right?" Mia considered this seriously. "Then you tried." "That's what you always tell me. You say trying is brave even if it doesn't work." Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds indeed. Ethan sat down across from his daughter, this small person who somehow had more wisdom than he gave her credit for. "You're right. Trying is brave." "I know," Mia grinned. "I'm smart like that. Also, can we invite Miss Vivi to Thanksgiving?" Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. "Thanksgiving?" "Yeah, Mrs. Chen says she's coming, and I asked Miss Vivi if she had plans, and she got sad and said probably just work, and that's lonely. So we should invite her. We always have room for people who need family." It was something Ethan's mother used to say. "We always have room." Their Thanksgiving table growing up had been full of strays and neighbors and anyone who needed a place. He'd carried that tradition forward, smaller now with just him and Mia, but still open. "That's very thoughtful of you." "So can we?" "Let me talk to her first, make sure she doesn't have other plans." "She doesn't. I already know." Mia returned to her pancakes, satisfied. "Also, we need to make a list for shopping because Mrs. Chen says she's bringing her special stuffing and we need to make sure we have the right ingredients." The rest of the weekend passed in a blur of grocery shopping and Mia's art projects and the comfortable routine of their life. But Sunday evening, after Mia was asleep, Ethan found himself texting Vivian. "So, hypothetically, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?" "Working probably. Why?" Because my 7-year-old daughter has decided you're coming to dinner at our place, and she doesn't really take no for an answer. A pause. Mia invited me to Thanksgiving? Apparently she asked if you had plans, you said work, and she decided that was unacceptable. We're having Mrs. Chen and probably making too much food. Very casual, no pressure. Ethan, that's a family holiday. I know, but Mia's right. We always have room for people who need family. And if you're spending Thanksgiving alone in your office, you need family. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared multiple times. I haven't had a real Thanksgiving in probably 6 years. Then it's time to change that. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on... Vivian, my daughter specifically requested your presence. Mrs. Chen will probably interrogate you about your intentions. I'll likely burn something despite my best efforts. It'll be chaotic and loud and nothing like whatever perfect holiday you're imagining. But it'll be real, and you're invited, if you want to come. I want to come. God, I really want to come. Then it's settled. Thursday, 2 p.m. Bring wine if you want to be fancy, but mostly just bring yourself. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for letting me in, for giving me a chance at this. Thank you for being brave enough to try. The week leading up to Thanksgiving was intense at work, everyone trying to close Q4 projects before the holiday weekend. But Ethan and Vivian moved through it with an ease that spoke to how well they worked together. In meetings, they were a united front. On strategy calls, they challenged each other toward better solutions. And when the office finally emptied Wednesday afternoon, they stood in Ethan's office and allowed themselves a moment of honest exhaustion. We did it, Vivian said, leaning against his desk. Everything's on track. Q4 will be our best quarter yet. Team effort. Partnership, she corrected. This doesn't work without you. It doesn't work without you either. Different skills, same goal. She smiled, tired but genuine. I'm nervous about tomorrow. About Thanksgiving. About meeting Mrs. Chen in a context where she can ask me questions. About being in your home. About whether I'll know how to just be a person at a family dinner instead of CEO Vivian. Ethan moved closer, careful not to presume, but near enough to be present. Here's the secret. You already know how. You're Miss Vivi every Wednesday. You know how to show up and be real. Just do that. And if I'm terrible at it, then you'll be terrible with people who already like you anyway. Mia's been talking about you coming all week. She's made you a place card. It has glitter. Vivian laughed. Glitter, the ultimate sign of acceptance, the highest honor. She looked at him, something soft in her expression. I should go. Early start tomorrow with cooking prep, I assume. Mrs. Chen and I are tag teaming the turkey at 9 a.m. It's a whole operation. I can't wait to witness this. She moved toward the door, then paused. Ethan, this thing we're building, work and whatever we are personally, it feels right. Scary, but right. Yeah, it does. Good. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining it. After she left, Ethan stood in his office looking out at the Manhattan skyline, at the city glittering with pre-holiday lights, and felt something settle in his chest. Hope, maybe. Possibility. The sense that complicated didn't mean impossible, just meant worth the effort. Thursday morning arrived cold and bright. Ethan was up at 7, Mia bouncing with excitement by 7:30, Mrs. Chen appearing at 8 with her arms full of ingredients and opinions about proper turkey preparation. You're sure about this girl? Mrs. Chen asked while showing him how to properly season the bird. Her name is Vivian, and yes, I'm sure. She's your boss. She's my partner and my friend, and maybe something more if we can figure out how not to mess it up. Mrs. Chen studied him with sharp eyes. You care about her. I do. And Mia likes her. Mia adores her. Then I'll reserve judgment until after I've properly interrogated her. Mrs. Chen smiled. But I trust your judgment, Mr. Brooks. You're a good man. You deserve good things. By 2 p.m., the apartment smelled like Thanksgiving. Turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie and all the traditional scents that meant family and gratitude. Mia had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on her favorite purple dress with the twirly skirt. The table was set with their mismatched dishes and Mia's handmade place cards, each one decorated with careful artistry. The knock came at 2:04. Mia ran for the door before Ethan could stop her, flinging it open to reveal Vivian standing in the hallway holding 2 bottles of wine and looking nervous. "Miss Vivi!" Mia launched herself at Vivian, who managed to keep hold of the wine while catching the 7-year-old enthusiasm. "Hey, sunshine, happy Thanksgiving. Come in, come in. I made you a place card and it has glitter, and I drew you reading a book because that's what you're best at." Vivian stepped into their apartment, their small, comfortable, nothing fancy Brooklyn apartment, and Ethan watched her take it in. The secondhand furniture, the walls covered in Mia's artwork, the bookshelf overflowing with children's books and art supplies, and the comfortable chaos of their life. "This is wonderful," Vivian said, and she sounded like she meant it. Mrs. Chen emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "You must be the famous Vivian. I'm Mrs. Chen. I live across the hall and keep these 2 from burning down the building." "It's lovely to meet you," Vivian said, shaking her hand. "Thank you for including me today." "Including you was Mia's idea. I'm just the enforcement." Mrs. Chen's eyes were sharp but not unkind. "Come, let's put that wine somewhere safe, and you can help me with the green beans. I find you learn a lot about people by how they handle vegetables." Ethan caught Vivian's slightly panicked look and grinned. "You'll be fine. Just don't tell her your vegetable consumption habits." "Traitor," Vivian mouthed, but she followed Mrs. Chen into the kitchen. The next 2 hours were beautiful chaos. Mrs. Chen did indeed interrogate Vivian while teaching her the proper way to prepare green beans, asking pointed questions about her intentions and her work-life balance, and whether she understood that Mia came first, always. Vivian answered honestly, never deflecting, and Ethan could see Mrs. Chen's approval growing with each genuine response. Mia gave Vivian the full tour of their apartment, showing her every art project, every book, every corner of their life with 7-year-old pride. And Vivian listened to all of it, asked questions, admired drawings, and looked more relaxed than Ethan had ever seen her. When they finally sat down to eat, Mia insisted Vivian sit next to her, which put Vivian directly across from Ethan. The table was crowded and perfect, food passed in multiple directions, conversation flowing easy. "Mr. Brooks," Mrs. Chen said, raising her glass, "would you like to say the traditional words?" It was something Ethan's father had done every Thanksgiving, a moment of gratitude before the meal. He'd carried it forward, adapted it for Mia. "We gather today," Ethan started, and Mia joined in because she knew the words by heart. "Grateful for food and warmth and the people who make our lives better. We're thankful for second chances and new beginnings and the courage to keep trying even when things are hard. And we remember that family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up, who stays, who chooses to walk beside you through the difficult days and the good ones." He looked at Vivian as he said it, saw her eyes shine with unshed tears. "To family," Mrs. Chen added, raising her glass higher. "To family," they echoed and drank. The meal was everything Thanksgiving should be. Too much food, easy laughter, stories shared across the table. Vivian told them about disastrous Thanksgivings from her corporate days, about the year she tried to cook her first turkey and nearly set off the fire alarm in her building. Mia talked about her class gratitude project, about all the things she was thankful for this year. Mrs. Chen shared stories about her grandchildren, about traditions carried across oceans and generations. And Ethan watched it all, watched Vivian fit into their small family like she'd always belonged there, and felt his heart make room for possibility. After dinner, while Mrs. Chen and Ethan tackled the dishes and Mia worked on a puzzle in the living room, Vivian stepped out onto their small balcony. Ethan found her there 10 minutes later, wrapped in her coat, looking out at Brooklyn stretching toward the skyline. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" She turned and there were tears on her cheeks. "I'm perfect. That's the problem. I'm so perfect I can barely breathe." "Vivian, I haven't had this in so long. Family dinner, people who care, feeling like I belong somewhere beyond a boardroom. And you gave me that. You and Mia and Mrs. Chen, who definitely threatened me with bodily harm if I hurt either of you." Ethan laughed. "She did not. She absolutely did, while showing me how to trim green beans, very efficiently threatening." Vivian wiped at her eyes. "But she was right to. You two are precious. This life you've built is precious, and I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up somehow." Or, Ethan said, stepping closer, you're going to make it better. Make us better. That's what you've done so far. I threw a paperweight at your wall. Before that, you challenged me, pushed me to be better at my work, made me realize I'd been coasting, playing it safe. You changed Apex into something sustainable. You show up for Mia every single Wednesday. You're already making things better. Vivian looked at him, really looked, and Ethan saw all her fear and hope tangled together. I don't know how to do this, how to be in a relationship, how to balance work and personal, how to be part of someone's family. Neither do I. I've been solo parenting for 2 years, hiding behind being a dad so I didn't have to risk anything else. We're both terrible at this. But we're trying. We're trying, Ethan agreed. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And Vivian, you're doing better than you think. You fit here. With us. Like you were always supposed to. She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and nothing like that first desperate kiss in his office. This was gentle, choosing, a promise of patience and possibility. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Happy Thanksgiving, Ethan. Happy Thanksgiving, Vivian. They went back inside to find Mia had abandoned her puzzle in favor of curling up on the couch with Mrs. Chen, both of them pretending to watch the parade on TV, but clearly waiting to see what had happened on the balcony. Everything okay? Mrs. Chen asked innocently. Everything's perfect, Vivian said, and meant it. They spent the rest of the afternoon in comfortable chaos, pie and coffee, Mia's insistence that they play her favorite board game, Mrs. Chen's stories about Thanksgiving's past. And when evening came and Mrs. Chen headed home and Mia started yawning, Vivian helped clean up the last of the dishes. I should go, she said reluctantly. Let you get Mia to bed. Or you could stay for bedtime story, Mia said from the doorway, because apparently she'd been listening. You're really good at voices. Vivian looked at Ethan, asking permission. He nodded. So Vivian Hart, CEO and Ice Queen, and Miss Vivi sat on Mia's bed and read 3 chapters of the current book with all the voices while Ethan listened from the doorway and felt his heart expand with the beautiful impossibility of it all. When Mia finally fell asleep, they stood in the hallway outside her room, and the silence felt full of everything they were building. Thank you, Vivian whispered, for today, for all of it. Thank you for being brave enough to show up. He walked her to the door, helped her into her coat, and they stood in his doorway like teenagers afraid to say goodnight. I'll see you Monday? Vivian asked. Actually, new policy. No work talk until Monday morning. Weekends for rest. What do we talk about instead? Anything. Everything. All the non-work things we're figuring out. I'd like that. She kissed his cheek. Good night, Ethan. Happy Thanksgiving. After she left, Ethan stood in his apartment, their small, comfortable, love-filled apartment, and thought about how much had changed since that first impossible day when she'd kissed him, and everything had fractured. They were building something, slowly, carefully, imperfectly, but real. And for the first time in 2 years, Ethan let himself hope that maybe, just maybe, complicated could become beautiful. December arrived with the kind of cold that made New York feel both brutal and magical at the same time. The city transformed into something out of a storybook. Holiday lights strung across every storefront, ice skating rinks appearing in parks. That particular energy that came when 8 million people collectively decided to embrace the season despite the freezing temperatures. For Ethan and Vivian, the weeks after Thanksgiving unfolded with a careful rhythm. They were actually dating, though they kept it quiet at the office, maintaining their professional partnership while navigating the personal complexity after hours. Dinners became a regular Friday tradition. Stolen moments in his office after everyone left became opportunities for conversations that ranged from silly to profound. And slowly, carefully, they built something that felt solid. Vivian still read to Mia's class every Wednesday. The routine had become sacred, 1 hour a week where she was just Miss Vivi, where the complications of their adult relationship didn't intrude on the simple joy of story time. But now, sometimes Ethan would pick Mia up from school on those days, and he'd see Vivian in the hallway surrounded by second graders, and she'd catch his eye and smile. And it felt like a secret they were keeping that wasn't really a secret at all. Mrs. Chen had given her blessing in her own particular way, which involved inviting Vivian for tea and subjecting her to 2 hours of pointed questions about her intentions, her childhood, her views on parenting, and whether she understood that Mia had already been hurt once by a mother who left and couldn't handle being hurt again. Vivian had answered every question honestly, and when she'd left Mrs. Chen's apartment, the elderly woman had hugged her and said, "You'll do, just don't be stupid about it." It was the second week of December when Mia asked the question Ethan had been both expecting and dreading. They were decorating their small Christmas tree, a tradition that involved more chaos than artistry, with ornaments collected over years and Mia's handmade decorations taking pride of place. She was hanging a construction paper star she'd made in first grade when she paused and looked at him with serious eyes. "Daddy, is Miss Vivi your girlfriend?" Ethan nearly dropped the string of lights he was untangling. "What makes you ask that?" "Because Sophie says when grown-ups have special dinners and smile at each other a lot, it means they're dating. And you and Miss Vivi have special dinners on Fridays. And you smile at each other a lot. Like, a lot. 7 years old and already too observant for her own good. Ethan set down the lights and sat on the couch, patting the space beside him. Mia climbed up, still holding her star. "Would it bother you if she was?" he asked carefully. Mia considered this with the same seriousness she brought to important decisions like which ice cream flavor to choose. "I don't think so. I like Miss Vivi. She's nice, and she does good voices, and she always remembers my stories, and she makes you happy. You whistle now when you make breakfast." "I whistle?" Yeah. You didn't used to. You used to just be quiet and tired looking, but now you whistle and smile, and you're not tired looking anymore." Mia tilted her head. "So if Miss Vivi makes you happy, that's good, right?" "Right. But sweetheart, I need you to understand something. You come first, always. No matter what happens with me and Vivian, you're my priority. If anything ever made you uncomfortable or unhappy, I know, Daddy, you tell me that all the time." Mia patted his hand with the particular patience children show when they think adults are being unnecessarily worried. "But I'm not uncomfortable. I think it's nice. Maybe we could all have dinner together sometime. Not just Thanksgiving, like regular dinner." "You'd want that?" "Yeah, Miss Vivi probably doesn't eat enough vegetables either. You could both be bad at vegetables together." Ethan laughed and pulled his daughter into a hug. "When did you get so smart?" "I was always smart. You just notice more now." That evening, after Mia was in bed, Ethan texted Vivian. "So Mia asked if you're my girlfriend today." The response came quickly. "Oh God, what did you tell her?" "I asked if it would bother her. She said no, but we should all have dinner together sometime because you probably don't eat enough vegetables either." "Your daughter is terrifyingly perceptive. She gets it from her father. Modest, too. So what do we tell her? Are we actually defining this thing we're doing?" Ethan stared at his phone, at the question that felt simultaneously too soon and long overdue. They'd been carefully dancing around labels, keeping things undefined, but Mia's question forced them to be honest about what they were building. "I'd like to say yes, if you're ready for that." The pause felt eternal. Then, "I'm ready. Terrified, but ready. But Ethan, I need you to know I've never done this. Never been someone's girlfriend while also being their business partner, while also being important to their daughter. I'm going to mess up." "We both will, but we'll mess up together and figure it out as we go. That's kind of our specialty." "Our specialty is being disasters who somehow make it work." "Exactly." "Okay. Yes, I'm your girlfriend. That feels weird to say at 34, but I'm saying it. I'm your girlfriend, and you're my boyfriend, and we're doing this." "And Sunday dinner. Mia specifically requested it. She wants to see us be bad at vegetables together." "I can do Sunday dinner. I should warn you, though, I'm a terrible cook." "I know. I've seen your office lunches. Rude but fair." Sunday dinner became a new tradition. Vivian showed up at 5 with ingredients for a meal she claimed she could cook, which turned into a chaotic 3-person cooking lesson where Mia appointed herself head chef and directed both adults with the confidence of someone who'd watched exactly 2 cooking shows. The resulting pasta was overcooked and the sauce was too salty, But they ate it at the kitchen table with Mia narrating her week and Vivian asking questions and Ethan watching his two favorite people interact and feeling his heart do complicated things. After dinner, Mia insisted they play board games, her current obsession, and Vivian turned out to be ruthlessly competitive in a way that delighted Mia and made Ethan laugh. When bedtime came, Vivian read the story with all the voices, and Mia fell asleep holding both their hands. Standing in the hallway outside Mia's room, Vivian looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. "This is really happening. We're really doing this." "Yeah, we are." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "You okay?" "I'm perfect. I'm terrified and happy and completely out of my depth, but I'm perfect." They settled on the couch with coffee. Vivian tucked against his side and talked about everything and nothing, work challenges and holiday plans and whether they should tell people at the office or keep it private for now. "I vote private for now," Vivian said. "Not because I'm ashamed or hiding, but because once people know, it becomes this thing. Everyone will have opinions about the CEO dating her partner, and I just want to enjoy this without commentary for a little while longer." "I'm good with that. Though Marcus definitely knows. He cornered me last week and made me admit it." "Of course Marcus knows. He knows everything," Vivian laughed. "What did he say?" "That he's happy for us. That I deserve this. That you seem more human lately, and he means it as a compliment." "I am more human lately. You and Mia are making me soft." "Good. Soft looks good on you." She kissed him then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "I should go. Early meeting tomorrow." "You could stay," Ethan heard himself say. "I mean, not stay. Just stay longer. We could watch a movie or just talk or—" "Ethan," Vivian cupped his face, "I'd love to, but I think we should take this slow. For Mia's sake and ours. I don't want to rush into something and mess it up because we move too fast." "You're right. You're absolutely right. But I'll be here Sunday and Wednesday for reading time and Friday for our dinner and probably a dozen other times in between because I'm finding it very hard to stay away." "Good. Don't stay away. Be here. Be part of this." The week before Christmas, Apex had its annual holiday party, a lavish affair at a rented venue in Midtown, complete with open bar and catered food and a DJ who took requests. In previous years, Vivian had made a brief appearance, said the appropriate things about company success and team appreciation, and left within an hour. It was part of her Ice Queen reputation, present but not really there, professional to the point of being distant. This year was different. She stayed, she mingled. She laughed at jokes and asked people about their families and actually seemed to enjoy herself. And when the DJ played something upbeat and half the company hit the dance floor, she caught Ethan's eye from across the room and smiled. Marcus materialized at Ethan's elbow. "You two are not as subtle as you think you are. We're not doing anything. You're eye flirting across a crowded room. Everyone can see it. Sarah from accounting has a betting pool on when you'll make it official." "There's a betting pool?" "There are 3 betting pools. When you'll announce it, whether you'll last 6 months, and whether Vivian will actually smile at the company picnic next summer." Marcus grinned. "I have money on all 3, by the way. I'm betting on announcement after New Year's, you'll last forever because you're disgustingly perfect for each other. And yes to the smile." "You're impossible." "I'm right. Also, she's coming over here, so stop looking panicked and just be a human person." Vivian approached, holding 2 glasses of champagne. She handed one to Ethan and one to Marcus. "Celebrating?" "The holidays, success, the fact that Q4 exceeded projections by 17%. Marcus raised his glass. "Also, whatever this is," he gestured between them. "Which everyone knows about, by the way. Just so you're aware." Vivian's eyes went wide. "Everyone? You stayed at the party for 2 hours. You laughed at Jim's terrible joke about spreadsheets. You're wearing a dress that's actually festive instead of your usual armor. People notice." Marcus's expression softened. "But for what it's worth. They're happy about it. You've been different since Ethan started. Better, more human. People respect that." After Marcus drifted away, Vivian looked at Ethan with something like panic. "Everyone knows." "Apparently. I thought we were being discreet." "We were. But also we apparently eye flirt across crowded rooms, so discreet might be relative. Vivian laughed, tension breaking. Eye flirt, is that what we're calling it? That's what Marcus called it. I'm just repeating information. We should probably make it official then, if everyone already knows. Or we could just keep doing what we're doing and let people think what they think. No formal announcement, no big declaration, just us being us. I like that. Low-key and honest. She clinked her glass against his. To being us. To being us. The party wound down around 11. Ethan helped with cleanup while Vivian said goodbyes to the stragglers, and when the venue was finally empty, they found themselves alone in the coat check area. Thank you, Vivian said quietly, for staying, for being here, for making this night something other than an obligation. Thank you for staying too, for letting people see you enjoying yourself. That matters to them. I'm learning, slowly, but I'm learning. They shared a cab back to Brooklyn, and Ethan walked Vivian to her car. She'd driven into the city, planning to head back to her Manhattan apartment, but standing on the sidewalk in the December cold, she hesitated. I don't want to go home to an empty apartment, she admitted. I want to come upstairs and see if Mia left her art supplies all over the kitchen table again, and have Mrs. Chen ask me pointed questions, and just be part of your life. Then come up. We'll be quiet so we don't wake Mia. You can have the couch, or we can just talk until you're ready to drive home. You're sure? I'm sure. Mrs. Chen was in the hallway when they arrived, putting out her recycling. She took one look at them and smiled. Late night? Company party, Ethan explained. Well, try to be quiet. Mia's asleep, but she's a light sleeper lately. Growing pains, I think. She looked at Vivian. You staying? Just for a bit. Didn't want to drive home quite yet. Good. Mr. Brooks gets mopey when he's alone too long. Needs people around. Mrs. Chen headed back to her apartment, calling over her shoulder. Keep it down, you two. Inside, the apartment was exactly as they'd left it that morning. Mia's art supplies scattered across the kitchen table, a half-finished drawing of what looked like a Christmas dragon taking up most of the space. Vivian moved to it immediately, studying the careful detail. She's talented, she said softly. She gets it from Nora. Her mother was an artist. Is an artist, I guess, wherever she is now. It was the first time Ethan had mentioned Nora in weeks. Vivian looked at him carefully. Do you think about her? Wonder where she is? Sometimes. Mostly, I wonder if she thinks about Mia, if she regrets leaving. But then I realize it doesn't matter because Mia is here and she's thriving and Nora made her choice. Does Mia ask about her? Not as much anymore. At first it was constant. Where's Mommy? When's Mommy coming back? Did I do something wrong? That last one nearly killed me. Ethan moved to the kitchen, started making tea because he needed something to do with his hands. I must have told her 1,000 times that her mother leaving had nothing to do with her. That sometimes adults make choices that hurt people and it's not fair, but it's not her fault. You're a good father, Ethan. The way you've protected her, given her stability, that's everything. I just did what had to be done. What any parent should do. Except not every parent does. Not every parent chooses their child over everything else. Vivian accepted the tea he handed her. My mother chose herself. Your ex-wife chose herself. But you chose Mia. Every single day you choose her. That's not nothing. They settled on the couch, careful to keep their voices low, and talked about families and choices and the complicated ways people hurt each other. Vivian told him more about her father, who died 5 years ago from a heart attack, working until the end because he didn't know how to do anything else. Ethan told her about his parents, still happily married in Michigan, visiting twice a year and calling every Sunday to check on their granddaughter. They'd like you, Ethan said. They're coming for Christmas, staying through New Year's. You should meet them. Vivian's eyes went wide. Meet your parents? That's a big step. We've been together for 6 weeks. We're business partners. You read to my daughter every Wednesday and have Sunday dinner with us. I think we're past the point where meeting parents is a big step. 6 weeks, Vivian repeated. It feels like longer. In a good way? In the best way. Like we've been doing this forever. Like you've always been part of my life and I just didn't know it yet. Ethan kissed her, soft and slow and full of everything he felt but didn't quite have words for yet. When they pulled apart, Vivian was smiling. Okay, I'll meet your parents, but if they hate me, they won't hate you. They'll probably love you and ask when we're getting married and embarrass us both thoroughly. Married, Vivian said, testing the word. That's a bit premature. Completely premature. But they're from a different generation. Marriage is the logical next step in their minds. Is it in yours? The question hung between them. Ethan thought about how to answer, about whether 6 weeks was too soon to admit he could see a future that included rings and vows and forever. Ask me in 6 months, he said finally. When we've survived meeting parents and office gossip and whatever complications come next, ask me then and I'll tell you the truth. And what truth do you think you'll tell me? I think I'll tell you yes, that I can see it, us, long term. But I want to make sure we've built something solid first, for Mia's sake and ours. That's very mature and reasonable. I'm trying to be an adult about this. I appreciate that, but for the record, Vivian leaned close, voice soft. I think in 6 months I'll want to hear that yes. She left around 1 a.m. after they'd talked themselves hoarse and finished a pot of tea and sat in comfortable silence just being near each other. Ethan walked her down to her car, kissed her goodnight under the streetlight, and watched her drive away. When he got back upstairs, Mrs. Chen's door opened a crack. That one's good for you, she called out. Don't mess it up. I'm trying not to. Try harder. Good women don't come around often. Christmas week arrived with the chaos of Ethan's parents descending on Brooklyn with suitcases full of presents and strong opinions about everything. His mother, Anne, was a force of nature, warm and opinionated and determined to feed everyone constantly. His father, Michael, was quieter, but no less perceptive, the kind of man who could read a situation in 3 seconds and know exactly what was happening. They met Vivian on Christmas Eve, which felt appropriately significant. Ethan had warned them ahead of time. Yes, I'm seeing someone. Yes, it's serious. Yes, she's also my business partner. No, I don't want to discuss it extensively before you meet her. His mother had immediately launched into questions anyway, but his father had shut it down with a simple, let the boy have his privacy, Anne. We'll meet her soon enough. Vivian arrived at 6 p.m., holding a bottle of wine and looking more nervous than Ethan had ever seen her. She'd changed outfits 3 times that afternoon. Mia had reported this via text with gleeful detail, before settling on jeans and a sweater that somehow looked both casual and expensive. Mia answered the door, bouncing with excitement. Miss Vivi, you're here! Come meet my grandma and grandpa. They're so excited to meet you. Ann Brooks appeared in the doorway, assessed Vivian in approximately 3 seconds, and smiled. So you're the young woman who's made my son whistle when he cooks. Come in, dear. Let's get you some wine and hear all about how you managed to capture his attention. Mom, Ethan warned. What? I'm being welcoming. You're being embarrassing. That's my job. Anne ushered Vivian inside like she'd known her for years. Michael, come meet Vivian. The evening unfolded with surprising ease. Anne asked 1,000 questions about Vivian's background, her company, her intentions, her favorite foods, but she did it with such genuine warmth that it never felt invasive. Michael was quieter, but Ethan caught him watching Vivian with Mia, seeing how gentle she was when reading stories, how naturally she fit into their family chaos. After dinner, while Mia was showing Anne her room and all her latest art projects, Michael pulled Ethan aside in the kitchen. She's good for you, he said simply. Yeah, she is. And you're good for her, I can see it. She was wound tight when she arrived, but she's relaxed now, smiling more. That's your influence. We're good for each other. We balance out. That's how it should be. Michael clapped his shoulder. Your mother's going to ask when you're getting married, probably tonight. I figured. What are you going to tell her? That it's too soon, that we're taking it slow for Mia's sake. And if your mother wasn't in the equation, what would you say then? Ethan looked through the doorway to where Vivian sat on the couch, Mia curled against her side, both of them laughing at something Anne was saying. I'd say I'm going to marry her eventually, that I know it's fast and crazy, but I know she's it for me. Then the timeline doesn't matter. When you know, you know. Michael smiled. Your mother and I were engaged after 3 months, married 6 months after that. 42 years later, still the best decision I ever made. Anne did indeed ask about marriage that evening, not even trying to be subtle about it. Vivian handled it with grace, explaining they were taking things slow, focusing on building a strong foundation, making sure Mia was comfortable with everything. But you care about him, Anne pressed, and about Mia. More than I knew I could care about anyone, Vivian said honestly. They've changed my life, made me want to be better, do better. So yes, I care. Deeply. Good. That's all a mother needs to hear. Anne patted Vivian's hand. Now, when are you bringing this young woman to Michigan for a proper visit? Later, after his parents had retired to their hotel and Mia was asleep and Vivian was preparing to leave, they stood in the doorway wrapped in their coats, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Your parents are wonderful, Vivian said. Intense, but wonderful. They liked you, I could tell. Your dad cornered me in the kitchen and told me if I ever hurt you or Mia, he'd know about it. Very politely threatening. Ethan laughed. That's his way of saying, welcome to the family. Is that what I am? Family? Do you want to be? Vivian looked at him, eyes serious in the dim hallway light. Yes. More than I've wanted anything in a very long time. This thing we're building, you and me and Mia and Sunday dinners and meeting parents, I want all of it. I want to be family. Then you are. It's that simple. She kissed him, sweet and full of promise, and when she pulled back, she was smiling. Merry Christmas, Ethan. Merry Christmas, Vivian. Christmas morning was beautiful chaos. Mia up at dawn, presents opened with appropriate 7-year-old enthusiasm, his parents making a breakfast feast that could feed 20 people. Vivian arrived at 10, having been specifically invited by Mia and folded seamlessly into the celebration. Watching her help Mia assemble a complicated art set, watching her laugh at his father's terrible jokes, watching her hold her own in a spirited debate with his mother about proper pie crust technique, Ethan felt everything click into place. This was his future. This woman. This life. This beautiful, complicated family they were building together. 6 weeks might be too soon to say forever out loud, but in his heart, Ethan already knew. Vivian Hart, brilliant, impossible, tender-hearted Vivian, was his forever. Now they just had to navigate the rest of it. The complications that would inevitably come, the challenges ahead, the unknown variables. But standing in his small Brooklyn apartment, watching his whole world gathered in one place, Ethan felt ready for whatever came next. They had built something real, something worth protecting, and he wasn't about to let anything destroy it. The new year arrived cold and bright, bringing with it the kind of January clarity that made everything feel possible. Ethan's parents had returned to Michigan with promises to visit again soon and not-so-subtle hints about future grandchildren. Mia had gone back to school energized by the holiday break, and Apex Marketing was hitting the ground running with campaigns that would define their entire year. For 3 weeks, life settled into a rhythm that felt almost too good to be true. Vivian came for dinner every Sunday and Wednesday. She and Ethan stole moments at work when they could. A kiss in his office after everyone left, coffee together before morning meetings, text messages throughout the day that had nothing to do with business. They'd stopped trying to hide their relationship at the office, and while there was gossip, it was mostly positive. People seemed genuinely happy to see their demanding CEO soften around the edges. It was the third Wednesday in January when everything changed. Ethan was in a client meeting when his phone buzzed with a text from the school. His stomach immediately dropped. They only contacted during school hours if something was wrong. He excused himself and stepped into the hallway. Mr. Brooks, this is Principal Morrison at Riverside Elementary. Mia is fine, but we have a situation. Her mother is here requesting to see her. The world tilted sideways. Ethan gripped his phone harder. Her mother? A woman identifying herself as Nora Brooks arrived about 20 minutes ago. She has identification and knows details about Mia that seem legitimate. But since she's not on the approved pickup list and you have sole custody, we're not permitting contact until we speak with you. I'm on my way. Don't let her near Mia. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Ethan ended the call and stood in the hallway, heart racing, mind spinning. Nora. After 2 years of absolute silence, Nora was at Mia's school. The woman who'd left a note on the kitchen table and disappeared to find herself was suddenly back, demanding to see their daughter. He texted Vivian quickly. Emergency at Mia's school. Nora showed up. Need to go. Her response came immediately. I'm coming with you. You have the Morrison presentation. Marcus can handle it. I'm coming. Where are you? 10 minutes later, they were in a cab racing toward Brooklyn, Ethan's hands shaking slightly, Vivian holding one of them tight. What do I do? He asked. She has legal rights. She's Mia's mother. But she left. She walked away for 2 years without a word. You protect Mia first. That's what you do. Whatever decision you make it based on what's best for her, not on your anger or Nora's sudden reappearance. I'm so angry, Vivian. I'm so angry I can barely think straight. I know. But you're also Mia's father, and you're going to walk into that school and handle this with the same grace and strength you bring to everything, and I'll be right there with you. The school came into view, and Ethan's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it. They walked in together, checked in at the office, and were immediately escorted to Principal Morrison's office. And there she was. Nora looked different, thinner, her hair shorter and lighter, wearing bohemian clothes that seemed deliberately artistic. She stood when Ethan entered, and he saw tears in her eyes. Ethan, she breathed, what are you doing here? His voice was colder than he'd intended, but he couldn't help it. I wanted to see Mia. I needed to see her. You needed to see her 2 years ago. You needed to see her every day for the past 730 days when she asked me where her mother was and why you left. Nora flinched. I know I messed up. I know I hurt her and you don't get to do this. You don't get to show up unannounced at her school and demand to see her like you have any right. I'm her mother. You're the woman who gave birth to her. Being a mother requires showing up. Principal Morrison cleared her throat. Perhaps we should all sit down and discuss this calmly, for Mia's sake. Ethan sat, pulling Vivian down beside him. Nora's eyes tracked the movement, landing on their joined hands. Who's this? Nora asked, an edge in her voice. This is Vivian, my partner, both professionally and personally. Your girlfriend. Nora's laugh was bitter. Of course you moved on. Of course you replaced me. I didn't replace you, Ethan said sharply. You left. You chose to walk away. And yes, I moved on because I had a daughter who needed stability and a life to build. But this isn't about me or Vivian. This is about Mia. So tell me, Nora, why now? After 2 years of absolute silence, why are you here? Nora wiped at her eyes. I've been in therapy, working through things, trying to understand why I ran, why I couldn't handle being a mother, and my therapist said I needed to face what I left behind, make amends. Your therapist told you to ambush your daughter at school? No, I didn't know how else to do this. I tried calling, but my number's blocked. I tried emailing, but got no response. So I thought if I just came here. You thought wrong. Ethan's voice was steady now, the initial shock wearing off into cold clarity. You don't get to waltz back into Mia's life because your therapist gave you homework. She's 7 years old. She spent months crying herself to sleep wondering what she did wrong, months asking me if mommy stopped loving her. And I had to help her understand that your leaving had nothing to do with her and everything to do with your choices. I want to make it right. You can't make this right with one visit. If you're serious about being in Mia's life, actually serious, not just checking a box for your therapy sessions, then we do this properly, slowly, with her needs first. Principal Morrison leaned forward. I think that's wise. If Ms. Brooks is genuine about reconnecting with Mia, perhaps starting with supervised visits with counseling support for Mia would be appropriate. Nora looked between them, desperate. Please, Ethan, I know I don't deserve it, but she's my daughter too. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'm trying to fix them. Vivian spoke for the first time, her voice calm and measured. Can I ask you something? Nora's eyes shifted to her, wary. Sure. Where have you been for 2 years? And more importantly, what's changed that makes you think you can sustain being present now when you couldn't before? I've been traveling, finding myself, working on art. I lived in California for a while, then New Mexico, then Colorado. I was trying to figure out who I was outside of being someone's wife or mother. And did you? Vivian's tone wasn't unkind, just direct. Figure out who you are? I think so. I'm an artist. I need space and freedom, and Nora stopped, seeming to realize how it sounded. That doesn't mean I don't love Mia. I do. I always have. I just couldn't be what she needed then. And you can be now? Ethan asked. Because Mia doesn't need a part-time mother who shows up when it's convenient and disappears when it's hard. She needs consistency, reliability. She needs to know that if you're back in her life, you're actually back. I can do that. I swear I can. Prove it. Ethan's voice was hard. You want to see Mia? Fine. But we do this my way. You meet with a family therapist first. You submit to a psychological evaluation. You prove you're stable and committed. Then, maybe, we arrange supervised visits. Short ones. And if at any point Mia is uncomfortable or upset, it stops. She comes first. Always. Nora's face crumpled. That's so many hoops. Those hoops are protecting our daughter. If you can't handle them, you're not ready to be in her life. Ethan, please. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. Nora looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. Principal Morrison pulled out a card. I can recommend a family therapist who specializes in reunification after parental absence. She's excellent and very child-focused. Thank you, Ethan said, taking the card. He looked at Nora. You contact the therapist. You do the work. When she says you're ready, we'll talk about visits. Until then, you stay away from Mia's school. If you want to send her letters, they go through me first. Understood? Understood. And Nora, if you hurt her again, if you come back into her life and then disappear, I will make sure you never get another chance. Am I clear? Crystal clear. They left the office, Nora heading in one direction, Ethan and Vivian in another. Once they were outside, Ethan felt his knees go weak. Vivian caught him, strong and steady. Breathe, she said softly. You did good. You protected her. I need to tell Mia before she hears it from someone else. Do you want me there? Yes. Please, I don't know how to do this alone. They picked Mia up from class together. She was happy to see them, bouncing out with her backpack and a drawing she'd made, but her smile faded when she saw their expressions. What's wrong? Did someone die? No, baby, no one died. But we need to talk. Can we go somewhere quiet? Principal Morrison had offered them the conference room, and they settled there, Ethan and Vivian on one side of the table, Mia across from them looking small and worried. Sweetheart, Ethan started, then had to stop and breathe. This was harder than he'd expected. Your mother came to the school today. Mia went very still. Mommy? Yes, she wanted to see you. Where is she? Mia's voice was small, confused. Why didn't she come get me? Because she and I needed to talk first, about some important things. Ethan reached across and took Mia's hand. Your mom left 2 years ago, and that hurt you. It hurt both of us. And I needed to make sure that if she comes back into your life, it's because she's ready to stay, not just visit. Does she want to stay? She says she does, but we're going to take it slow. She's going to work with a special counselor who helps families, and when everyone agrees it's okay, you'll get to see her, but only if you want to. You get to choose, Mia. If you're not ready, that's okay. Tears were sliding down Mia's cheeks. I don't know if I want to see her. I'm mad at her for leaving. That's completely okay. You're allowed to be mad. But I also miss her sometimes. Is that weird? Not weird at all, baby. You can be mad and miss her at the same time. Feelings are complicated like that. Mia looked at Vivian. What do you think I should do, Miss Vivi? Vivian's eyes were wet too. I think you should take your time. Don't make any decisions right now. Your dad and I and the counselor will make sure everything is safe and okay. And when you're ready, if you're ready, you can meet her. But Mia, no matter what happens with your mother, you have people who love you and won't leave. Your dad, Mrs. Chen, me. We're here, always. Promise? I promise, your dad and I aren't going anywhere. Mia nodded slowly. Okay. Can we go home now? I don't want to think about this anymore. Of course, sweetheart. That evening was quiet. Mia was subdued, picking at her dinner, asking sporadic questions about Nora, where she'd been, why she left, whether she still loved Mia. Ethan answered everything as honestly as he could. and Vivian sat beside them, providing gentle support. After Mia was in bed, Ethan collapsed on the couch and Vivian held him while he finally let himself feel everything. The anger, the fear, the protective fury that someone had tried to disrupt the careful stability he'd built for his daughter. What if she hurts Mia again, he asked. What if she comes back and then leaves and breaks her heart all over again? Then we'll be here to help her heal, again. That's all we can do. Vivian stroked his hair. But Ethan, you can't protect her from everything, and Nora is her mother. If she's genuinely trying to change, Mia deserves the chance to have a relationship with her. I know, I just wish I could guarantee it won't end badly. Life doesn't come with guarantees, but you're doing everything right, protecting her, setting boundaries, making sure any reunion happens on terms that prioritize Mia's well-being. That's all any parent can do. Over the next month, Nora did the work. She met with the therapist regularly, submitted to the evaluation, sent letters to Mia through Ethan that were age-appropriate and focused on Mia rather than Nora's need for forgiveness. Slowly, carefully, the therapist recommended supervised visits. The first one was at a family therapy office with the counselor present. Ethan brought Mia, and Vivian waited outside, giving them space but ready if needed. Mia was nervous, clutching her dad's hand, and when Nora walked in looking equally terrified, they just stared at each other. "Hi, Mia," Nora said softly. "You've gotten so big." "Hi, Mommy." Mia's voice was small. The counselor facilitated, helping them navigate the awkwardness, prompting conversation about safe topics, school, art, Mia's current favorite things. It was stilted and strange, but Mia didn't cry and Nora stayed calm. And when the hour ended, Mia said she'd be willing to do it again. The visits increased slowly, once a week, then twice. Always supervised, always with the therapist present, and Nora showed up. Every single time she was there, engaged, trying. It was March when the therapist suggested they might try an unsupervised visit, coffee and dessert somewhere public, with Ethan nearby but not present. Nora had been consistent for 2 months, had completed her therapy work, had proven herself stable. Ethan agonized over the decision. Vivian sat with him through it, never pushing one way or the other, just helping him think through the implications. "What does Mia want?" she finally asked. "She says she's ready, that she likes seeing her mom but still wants to live with me." "Then trust her. She's smart, Ethan. She knows her own heart." The visit happened on a Saturday afternoon. Ethan took Mia to the coffee shop, saw Nora already waiting, and felt his protective instincts scream. But Mia looked up at him with serious eyes. "I'll be okay, Daddy. You'll be right there if I need you." "Right there. Just text if you need me." He settled at a table across the room, close enough to intervene, but far enough to give them privacy. And he watched his daughter talk with her mother, saw Nora listening intently, saw Mia slowly relax. After an hour, Mia came back to him. "That was good. She told me about her art and about where she's living now. She said she's sorry for leaving and that she's working really hard to be better. How do you feel about it?" "Okay. It's still weird, but okay." That night, after Mia was asleep, Nora texted Ethan, "Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what Mia needs. Don't make me regret this." "I won't. I promise." The visits continued. Nora proved consistent, showing up when she said she would, respecting boundaries, not pushing for more than Mia was ready to give. She got an apartment in Brooklyn, not close but not far, and started teaching art classes. She was building a life that had room for Mia without demanding Mia be the center of it. It was April when Mia asked the question that had been coming for months. "Daddy, does Miss Vivi love you?" They were making Sunday dinner together, a tradition that now often included Nora stopping by for dessert, awkward but functional co-parenting that was slowly becoming easier. Ethan looked at his daughter, at her serious face and 2 wise eyes. "Why do you ask?" "Because she looks at you the way people in movies look at each other when they're in love. And you look at her the same way. And Mrs. Chen says you're both being ridiculous not admitting it yet." "Mrs. Chen has opinions about everything." "That's not an answer, Daddy." Ethan set down the vegetables he was chopping. "Yes, I love her. Very much." "Does she love you?" "I think so, but we haven't said it out loud yet." "Why not? That's silly. Sometimes grown-ups are silly about important things. You should tell her. Life's too short to not tell people you love them. Wisdom from a 7-year-old. Ethan pulled Mia into a hug. When did you get so smart? I was always smart. You just notice more now. That evening, after dinner and dishes, and after Nora had left and Mia was in bed, Vivian settled beside Ethan on the couch. They'd reached a comfortable routine. She stayed most Sunday nights now, sleeping in his room, waking up to make breakfast with him and Mia. It felt natural, right? Like she'd always belonged there. Mia asked me today if you love me, Ethan said into the quiet. Vivian went still. What did you tell her? That I do, very much. Oh. Her voice was soft, wondering. And do you? Love me? Yes. I love you, Vivian Hart. I love your brilliant mind and your terrible vegetable-eating habits and the way you do voices when you read. I love how you've made room in your life for me and Mia. I love watching you become more yourself, softer and braver and more real. I love all of you. Tears were sliding down her cheeks. I love you too. I love your strength and your devotion to Mia and the way you push me to be better. I love that you see past my armor to who I actually am. I love Sunday dinners and Wednesday reading time and every moment I get to spend as part of your life. He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling through tears. So what do we do now? Vivian asked. Now we keep building. Together. Whatever comes next, Nora complications or work challenges or life-throwing curveballs, we handle it together. Together, she agreed. I like the sound of that. It was June when everything finally came together. 6 months since that first impossible kiss, 6 months of building something real and solid and true. Ethan and Vivian had just finished presenting a major campaign pitch to their biggest client yet, a tech giant that wanted to completely rebrand. They'd worked on it for months, and when the client said yes, the entire team erupted in celebration. That evening, Apex threw an impromptu party, and in the middle of it, with the whole company watching, Ethan pulled Vivian aside. I have something to ask you. Here? Now? Here. Now. In front of everyone. He got down on one knee, and Vivian's hands flew to her mouth. The office went silent. Vivian Hart, 6 months ago you kissed me and threw a paperweight at my wall and turned my entire life upside down. You challenged me to be better, to build something meaningful, to stop playing it safe. You've become family to my daughter and to me. You've shown me what partnership really means, both in work and in life. So I'm asking, in front of all these people who've watched us figure this out, will you marry me? He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. Vivian was crying, laughing, nodding all at once. Yes, God, yes, of course, yes. The office erupted in cheers as he slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. Marcus was yelling something about winning all 3 betting pools. Sarah from accounting was crying. The whole company was celebrating, and in the middle of it, Ethan and Vivian held each other and let themselves be completely, impossibly happy. That night, they told Mia together. She'd been staying with Mrs. Chen, and when they came to get her, she took one look at their faces and grinned. You asked her. How did you? I helped pick the ring, duh. Miss Vivi showed me pictures and I said, which one was prettiest? Mia launched herself at both of them. So now you're going to be my dad and my stepmom, and we're going to be a real family? We've been a real family for months, sweetheart, Vivian said. This just makes it official. Can I be in the wedding? You can be whatever you want. This is your wedding too. Buzzy, the wedding was planned for August. Small and intimate, just family and close friends. Nora was invited at Mia's request, and she came with quiet grace, sitting in the back and crying when Mia walked down the aisle as junior bridesmaid. Ethan's parents stood beside him, beaming. Mrs. Chen sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes. Marcus was best man, giving a speech that was equal parts touching and embarrassing. And Vivian walked down the aisle looking radiant, her eyes locked on Ethan like he was her entire world. When they exchanged vows, Mia stood between them, holding both their hands. I promise to choose you, Ethan said, every day in every way that matters. To be your partner in work and in life. To challenge you when you need it and support you always. To build a life worthy of the love you've given me. I promise to keep showing up, Vivian said, voice thick with tears. To be brave enough to stay even when it's hard. To love you and Mia with everything I have. To be the person you see when you look at me. Someone worthy of this beautiful, complicated family we've built. They kissed as husband and wife while their daughter and friends and family cheered, and it felt like the culmination of everything, every hard conversation, every risk taken, every moment of choosing each other. At the reception, Nora approached Ethan quietly. Thank you for letting me be here, for giving me the chance to be part of Mia's life again. You did the work. You proved yourself. That's all I ever asked. She's lucky to have you, to have both of you. Nora looked at Vivian, who was dancing with Mia. I couldn't be what she needed, but you two are. You're giving her the stability and love I couldn't provide. You're her mother, Nora. You'll always be her mother. But yes, we're giving her a family, and there's room in that family for you as long as you keep showing up. I will. I promise. That night, after the party ended and the guests had gone and Mia was asleep in her room, Ethan and Vivian stood on their balcony looking out at the city lights. They'd moved to a bigger apartment last month, one with room for all of them, with a real office for Vivian and space for Mia's art projects and windows that let in enough light to make everything feel open and possible. We did it, Vivian said softly. We actually built this. We did, together. I never thought I'd have this. Family, partnership, love that feels solid instead of scary. It's still scary sometimes, but worth it. Absolutely worth it. Vivian leaned into him, and they stood there in comfortable silence, watching their city breathe and glow. Behind them, Mia stirred in her sleep, safe and loved. Around them, the life they'd built held steady, complicated and beautiful and real. Ethan thought about it that first day, about the paperweight shattering against the wall and the kiss that changed everything. About the hospital at 1 a.m. and Thanksgiving dinner and all the small moments that had led them here. About choosing each other every single day through the complications and challenges and beautiful ordinary moments. I love you, he said into the quiet. I love you too. Vivian turned in his arms, smiling. Thank you for taking a chance on the Ice Queen. Thank you for melting. She laughed, and the sound was free and genuine and everything he'd dreamed of when he'd first seen her soften around Mia. They'd come so far from that glass-walled office and impossible deadlines. They'd built something sustainable, not just in work, but in life. A partnership that balanced ambition with humanity, success with love, professional excellence with personal connection. Inside, Mrs. Chen's voice drifted through the wall. She was watching TV again, probably knitting something practical. Somewhere in Brooklyn, Nora was in her apartment working on art and being present for her daughter in whatever limited way she could manage. At Apex, their team was probably still celebrating, already planning the next campaign, energized by leadership that valued them as people. And here, in this apartment that smelled like home and held all their dreams, Ethan and Vivian stood together, husband and wife, partners in every sense. Parents to a brilliant, brave 7-year-old who taught them both that family was something you built, not something you were born into. Come to bed, Vivian said softly. Tomorrow's Sunday. We're making pancakes. Pancakes and cartoons and Mia's inevitable art project takeover. Perfect Sunday, perfect life. Not perfect, Ethan corrected, following her inside. But ours. And that's better. They checked on Mia one more time, a nightly ritual neither could break, and found her sprawled across her bed, a new drawing on her nightstand. Ethan picked it up carefully. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow, labeled in careful 7-year-old letters. Daddy and Vivian and Mia's adventure. Not Miss Vivi anymore, just Vivian. Family. He set it back carefully and followed his wife to their room, to their life, to the future they were building one choice at a time. Outside, New York hummed with possibility. Inside, their small family slept safe and whole. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again. Choose each other, show up, keep building the beautiful, complicated life they'd created from broken glass and impossible kisses and the courage to try. It wasn't the ending Ethan had imagined when this started. It was better, messier, harder, more real, full of complications they'd navigate together and challenges they'd face as partners, full of Sunday dinners and Wednesday reading sessions and moments of pure joy mixed with inevitable struggles. But it was theirs. This life, this love, this family they'd built from nothing but determination and hope, and the willingness to be brave enough to try. And that, Ethan thought as sleep pulled him under, was everything that mattered. The hardest beginnings really could become the strongest families. You just had to be willing to fight for them, to show up every single day and choose love over fear. They had, and they would keep choosing for all the days ahead, together, always together.